Week one is officially in the books, and what a week it was. We saw head coaching debuts, some more successful than others, championship contenders playing their role, and potential Heisman finalists shining on the biggest of stages. Of course, week two is upon us now as we get set for more non-conference action for Big Ten teams trying to make their mark nationally. And as we do each and every Monday, we will hear from some of the head coaches who speak on Monday in advance of their team's upcoming weekend games. We will start today with the Michigan Wolverines and head coach Jim Harbaugh, who of course was not on the sidelines for Michigan's dominant 30-3 win over East Carolina. J.J. McCarthy, ruthlessly efficient, 26 of 30, 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. One of those Heisman favorites, Blake Corum, ran for just 73 yards, but the Wolverines didn't really need him, only carried the ball 10 times. Yes, it is a season-opening dub for Michigan, and that is expected to continue this weekend. It was East Carolina in week one. It is UNLV in week two in a 3:30 Eastern time kickoff from Ann Arbor. Again, Jim Harbaugh not on the sidelines for this game. It will be the second game of his university-imposed 3-game suspension. He is, however, around the team from Sunday through Friday, including during his Monday press conference, which he conducted earlier on Monday morning, as we take you to Ann Arbor to listen into the Michigan headman.
Labor Day. We get to labor. We get to celebrate work on Labor Day. Yeah, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. A lot of positives with the win. Came out pretty darn healthy too. Great start. Great to win the opener. And also on a personal note, want to say happy birthday to 2 sons. I have son Jimmy that was born on September 4th, and son Jack, both born on September 4th. So I remember it well. It was a warm, sunny day, much like today, both times. So, happy to take any questions.
On the left there, Aaron.
Jim, could you kind of explain what it was like watching the game on Saturday on television, and what did you think about what you saw?
A lot of good. Just so much positive. With the team. Like I said, the win, we came out healthy, and step one in the process complete, and now we'll reset this week and get moving forward.
You watched the game with Rhule?
I did.
Did you
Yeah.
invite you, or did you invite yourself over?
Yeah, he invited me. I said, hey, let's watch the game together. He said, why don't you come over? And yeah, his wife Kelly had some sandwiches, and his 2 daughters were there, and my son Johnny. So we had a good time. It was good, excellent, and I really loved what I saw. Out of our team, Colonel Minnick, who I'm lifelong friends with. He sent me a message, and he said that there's a military saying that the truest sign of your leadership is what your unit does when you aren't there. And for us, I thought it was really great. Our captains, our senior leadership, our coaches, all were phenomenal. When we started fall camp, I told the team that Moses had 70 leaders. How many do you think we need? More. We need a lot more. And I think we have that, and it's building. It's just when you talk about turning a negative into a positive. I just love the way our team is doing that. It's a unique opportunity to build leadership, build leaders, because they have a chance to make those incredible leadership bonds. And personally, it was great. It was great watching the team. They played fast, physical, smart, tough, and personally, I felt the love too, which was great from our team and from the Michigan faithful. So, good day.
Isaiah?
You felt the love, and you had I don't know if you saw that JJ had the free Harbaugh shirt, and a bunch of different guys had those. have Jim Harbaugh shirts on, and then you had the train formation, and all the guys holding up number 4. What was your reaction when you saw all of that?
Yeah, I felt the love from them just doing them. I could see it in our players. I could see it in our coaches. And that's what I want them to do. I want them to do them. Do you, is the way we say it around here. And I saw them having fun. Saw them executing and playing good. And, yeah, felt the love from them and the Michigan faithful.
What advice have you given to Jay and Mike about splitting head coaching duties in the middle of a game?
Just that Jay's going to take them pregame and through the first half, and Mike is going to he'll have the halftime adjustments, and he'll take the team from the start of halftime on through the end of the game.
Ryan?
Yeah, I guess when JJ left the game, it was, 30 pass, 24 run. What did you see out of the run-pass ratio, and did you like that when the way JJ was executing the offense during the game?
Yeah, well, it ended up being 31-31.
Right.
31 passes, 31 runs.
When JJ was
That's what it was. That was I thought it was a great job by Kirk Campbell, the way he was able to get the ball, the touches and the targets, to our great players. Somebody coined "feed the studs," and I thought he did a great job of that. Some of the numbers showed that really well. Roman Wilson, 8 targets, 6 catches, 3 touchdowns. Cornelius Johnson, 6 targets, 5 catches, 71 yards. Colston, 4 targets, 4 catches, 57 yards. Dono, 16 touches. Blake, 13 touches. It was great. Fred Moore, nice to see him get 2 catches on the 2-minute drive. Max Bredesen, and then Kalel, C.J. Stokes, and Ben Hull accounted for 7 total touches. J.J. was magnificent. That was 26 for 30. And that's the highest percentage, 87.6, in the history of Michigan football for anybody that's thrown 30 or more passes. So it was tremendous downfield, tough throws, tight window throws. Kind of could have had even more. I think if JJ wouldn't have been flushed on the 1 because of the protection and could have got the ball to Colston, he probably would have gone for a lot more. But all that being said, it's tremendous. Really proud of him. The way he played, the pass protection was outstanding. And it's step one. It's step one in the process, and JJ will reset and go back to work this week.
Does he have more ownership of the offense? More influence maybe over how it is, just because he's got another year of experience under his belt?
Yeah, we've talked about him. He's improved in so many ways, and understanding the offense, coaching it to other players. I see that. It's ever increasing, and good step one, and reset and get back after it this week.
On the left, Ryan and Tony.
Jim, when do you expect Will Johnson and Rob Moore to be available to play in the game next?
I think there's an opportunity this week. We'll see.
Tony?
Yeah, Jim, some of those spots you were talking preseason about doing the Michigan method with I guess, the 2 tackles and the 2 edges. You rotate, or the coaches, the staff was rotating the entire defensive line, but I want, on those spots, specifically the edges and the tackles, what did you think of the guys who played there, and are you still planning to flip the starters week 2, or what did you say?
Yeah, so defensively, it was fast, physical, smart, disciplined, no penalties on the defense the entire game. I don't think we had any in the first half, and we had the 5 in the second half, 1 on special teams and and 4 on offense. Pass rush was really good. They were throwing the ball quick, and we were close on a few, especially Kenneth Grant, who got two quarterback hurries, and one led to the interception with Mike Sanderstell. But the run wall and the pass coverage, I thought was outstanding. The linebackers played extremely well. Junior Colson, Mike Barrett was a real tone setter in the game. You could see it right off the bat. I mean, the way he was playing. 2 real good hits in the first 2 plays. Keyshawn Harris, Keon Sabb, Josh Wallace. Thought he played a great game. Tough technicality of a Rhule that on an incredible interception. Just on and on. Mason Graham had a heck of a game. Mikey made the big play and was all over the field. Coverage was tight from Mikey. Really good, sure tackling. Missed some tackles. Be something to improve on this week. But overall, thought it was a heck of a game. Kept him under 250 yards. Another game where opposing offense didn't get over 250 yards. So many good positives. And special teams, really good, especially Tommy Doman. First time punting, 45 net, and had the one right backed up, we were on our 2-yard line and handled it well and got the ball out and ended up getting an interception on the next possession. So a lot of positives.
Andrew?
As far as splitting up the head coaching duties, I guess what are a head coach's responsibilities during the game?
Be the guardian of victory is probably the number one job. You have making sure that the decisions you're making are complementary on all 3 phases. There's no offense, there's no defense. It's a we fence, and making sure that putting the players in position to have their hard work achieved.
On the left, Chris?
What did you see from ECU's defense, run defense, where they were aggressive, kind of running downhill, and how you guys adjusted to that?
Yeah, it's definitely watching other games. It's much the trend right now in college football. Really putting people inside the tackles, loading boxes and trying to get penetration, shoot gaps, stop the zone play, and that's something we saw from ECU, which had been you could tell was their game plan, and having the complementary plays at our disposal, being able to throw the ball, play action, get the ball on the perimeter was really good for us.
In the back right?
It kind of looked like Roman Wilson was emerging as that go-to target for JJ this year. Can you just talk about what you saw from him this weekend?
Yeah, I thought Roman was outstanding. He's been outstanding all fall camp. He is in great shape, physically strong, running extremely well, moving well, and catching the ball extremely well. Getting separation. He's getting separation, and when he's on a route, he increases that separation. And his detail in his route running is keeps getting better and better. Definitely an ascending player. And Cornelius Johnson, the same. Obviously, he give a sticker and game ball to Roman Wilson and J.J. McCarthy, very, very obvious. But also Cornelius Johnson made big catches, made big plays down the field for us again, and they were sometime a little bit behind him, or he had to stretch and make the big play across the middle. I was really impressed with the way he played as well, and obviously our guys caught the ball. With only 4 incompletions on the day, we were catching really well.
We got 4 more questions, and then we're going to move on to the assistants who will be taking over. We'll go to Austin.
Jim, what did you see from Miles and Drake in their first starts? And do you feel like you found your 5 up front on the offensive line, or do you want to continue to see some more combinations in?
I thought they played really well. Miles has been he's had a great camp, and it was great to see him go out there and play extremely well. The pass protection was good as you could hope for. I mean, it was a blitz scheme, some good blitz plans, and they were executing them well too, and we were picking them up. So that was a huge positive. All 5, all that were in there, protected really well, and the center has a lot to do with that, and making the calls and adjustments up front. So yeah, both played really well.
In the back end, Jalik.
Jim, I'm just curious about your backup quarterback situation. Davis came in. Will Jack come in first this game? You doing it like that?
Yeah, we'll do it like that, and Jack will be the first in this week, or we'll Jaden Denegal and Alex Orji. We still consider them, right there in the mix, and take it to the games, just like we do. But want to hopefully we'll have the opportunity to be able to play Jack and Jaden and Alex in this next game, and Davis had a chance, and I think was doing good. That's when we got the penalties that stopped those drives. That was really unfortunate. Kind of a young mistake lining up over the ball, and the other false start Gio had, and might have been somebody else involved in that false start as well. But get that cleaned up. So not really a reflection on him, but the other guys are going to get the opportunity to play in the game.
Sorry. Taking you back to Saturday morning again, did you sleep in? What was your morning like, and how unique was that for you?
I was up early. I don't think I get up when I get up, and was just doing all the things I usually do before a game, thinking a lot about it. That's what it was like. And then watched it unfold. Like I said, went into pretty good detail about what I saw, how I felt, and what I experienced. A lot of positives.
But you've never watched it unfold from Sharon's house. You've always been there. That's how challenging was that for you?
It was what it was. And do the absolute best you can to turn the negative into a positive. And that's just how I think about it. It's just what I do. I just put the needs of the players, the coaches, the team before my own.
Right here.
Jim, do you find yourself maybe saying the things that you would usually say over the headsets in that living room, or do those coaching instincts ever kick in as you were watching the game on TV?
Yeah. And it was really a cool thing. As Sharon and I were both sitting there, it was like, okay, time for a play action pass. All right, let's run this. And it was uncanny how many times, that's what Kirk would call or do. We both said, hey, time to get to each other, time to get the starters out, and boom, the starters were out. It was it was cool that way, both with Kirk and Jesse.
All righty, thanks everyone for being here today. Like I said after the game, I thought we played well in the second half and did some really good things. There was a lot of positives, and obviously we have some things we need to clean up. Just want to thank everyone for coming out big, fans. We had some recruits at the game, and it's just really important for our recruits to see how Spartan Nation supports our team. So I appreciate that. Richmond's a really good team, and they've been in the playoffs the last few years. They play a lot of good football, and so we're just working to improve and prepare like crazy for this game. We expect to have a better football team this weekend. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
I was wondering what you thought of the performance of your secondary. You were starting, 3 second-year guys, I believe, and just how they held up.
Yeah, like I said, we're young, but we're talented, and the guys are hungry, and I thought they played aggressively, tried to make some plays on the ball, and I thought they tackled well. They tackled better as the game went on, and so it was a good start for us. We still got a lot of work to do.
Mel, got the win. That's great. I'm just curious. I saw some of the players out that night celebrating. It's a good time. What's more difficult to managing expectations after a win or getting your team locked back in the event of a loss?
It just depends on the player. It's we get a 24-hour rule. You can't. It's hard to win football games. I know there's a lot of teams right now that are sitting here, sitting around, 0-1, and so, if you have players that are mature and they've been there before and they understand, it's a lot easier. Some of the guys maybe haven't been there before, don't know how to handle it as well, and then it's a little more challenging. But the attitude we had today from the coaches and the players, I didn't see any complacency or everyone was locked in, and so that's not a concern of mine right now. We'll see what happens once we start putting the pads on. It's a little warm out there today, so we're going to push them hard this week, and we'll see how they react. Yep, you're welcome.
Hey, Mel, you've told us in the past about the week 1 to week 2 improvement traditionally. I'm just wondering over your career, what sort of aspects of a football team lend themselves to more of that, that are more prone to maybe making that jump versus some aspects that's like, hey, this is more of a long-term thing, and this is more maybe a short-term thing where we can see there's that week 1. Does that make any sense?
No.
Okay.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Do I make any sense? Sometimes. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. No. So things like tackling, you'll see that typically improves from because we hardly ever tackle to the ground. We had 2 scrimmages in fall camp, and that's it. We don't have any preseason games, so live tackling is kind of shaky in the first game usually, and it was for us in the first half, and it got better as the game went on. You'll see like a lot of drop passes in college football in week 1. That usually improves things like that, communication issues, substitution things, patterns, getting guys on and off the field, getting guys lined up, communication with the crowds, with the volume in the stadium and things like that. And so, those are things that, penalties, obviously, sometimes guys are, super aggressive, and get away from technique and things like that. So assignments, you'll see a lot cleaner football as you go usually because guys start to settle down and execute and take it from the practice to the game. Sometimes guys that haven't been out there very much, for some reason when they get in the game, it's different than what we practice. And so, and that's the type of improvement we're looking to see. Yeah.
You're, of course, obviously always trying to look ahead, to the next opponent. But after what Henry was able to do with that one-handed catch, it totally ignited the whole sideline. All weekend, there were clips of it being played over and over. So how can a catch like that not re-energize a program, but kind of give you the momentum you need going into a new season?
Yeah, I think that was more for the fans than anyone else, because we see it every day in practice. When we see Malik making plays, we see Glover making plays, Trey Mosley, Tyrell, makes plays all the time. Montori's a playmaker. We have several guys. Berger's an excellent receiver out of the backfield. He had a lot of offers out of high school as a receiver, Power 5 offers. He was a 4-star. So, we've talked about Carter in preseason camp. So we knew what these guys could do. We see those types of plays often, and it was just more so for everyone else to be able to see it finally.
Go ahead.
Mel, with the run game, obviously Carter had a big game. I think you guys were about maybe plus 14 from the average last year. Up front, what did you see that you liked, and what did you see that maybe needs a little bit more work?
Yeah, I saw our receivers doing a really good job blocking. I mean, I saw Gates and Glover digging guys out, and we can always get better in sustaining those blocks. Our tight ends, you know, did a solid job for the most part, but some of those plays that were not efficient, the tight ends didn't get the job done. And then inside, you know, just better technique overall, communication, pad level. But I saw guys finishing, playing through the whistle, being aggressive, finishing on top, finishing forward, backs were running hard. Quarterback was getting us in and out of the right plays, and so, you know, it was a solid start for us. We knew that it was going to be tough sledding. They had a couple guys up front that were really hard to block, and they were that way on tape as well. I mean, you watch those guys against Penn State last year. I think it was 21-14 at halftime in Happy Valley. I mean, they had some good players. They play hard, so we knew it was going to be a challenge. But the guys played hard, and I thought that, you know, as the game went on, I thought our conditioning showed up, and guys were able to play hard and finish and continue to build momentum throughout the game.
It'll kind of go off of that, but you mentioned the improvements from week 1 to week 2. What were some things that you thought your team, you know, maybe you were not pleasantly surprised with, but thought that your team did well for that week 1 start?
I mean, it wasn't anything in particular. I really liked, in terms of like things maybe you don't see, like our attitude and our demeanor throughout the game, and our poise and our confidence and our patience was great. And you know, I told our guys, I said, listen, it's going to be tough sledding. We have to stick with the process, continue to play the next play. I said we might get booed, which we did. I said, don't worry about it. Just continue to play the next play. Just keep chopping, keep chopping. And that was the attitude of our players and our coaches the entire game. I felt really good at halftime. I told Jay Johnson, I said, I like the way Noah's playing. And we kept telling the guys, just stay with the process, keep chopping, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We're going to wear these guys down. And then once the guys kind of got the jitters out and you know, everyone stayed the course, we started to play better in all 3 phases. And so that's what, you know, that showed a level of maturity and a togetherness that was impressive to me as a coach.
Mel, a lot of guys had targets Friday night. Everyone wants to know who your go-to receiver is. Can it be an advantage not to have a go-to receiver and spread it around that way? And did you get a chance to watch a lot of other games over the weekend? Did you see Florida State last night?
It depends on what you call a go-to guy, you know, or what does that mean? You know, we told Noah to throw it to the open man. You know, take what the defense gives you, and so that's what we have to do. You can't try to force the ball into someone. Just like force the ball into double coverage and things like that, or, you know, force things that aren't there. So we're just, you know, executing, running the offense. We have, like I said, we have multiple targets. We have multiple guys that can make plays. I mean, Fitzpatrick can make plays. Trey Mosley can make plays. Glover can make plays. Gates can make plays. Tyrell Henry can make plays. You know, Berger can make plays. You know, this goes on and on. And on. I mean, we have, you know, guys that, you know, they can make plays. So we don't have to worry. We don't have to concern ourselves with that. Just run the offense, get the ball where it's supposed to go, execute, and just keep chopping. I did watch some games. I was happy for Keon last night. He did a really nice job.
Mel, last year you lost 2 starters in the back. You lost 2 starters in Darius and Xavier kind of in the first game. On the defensive side, you've talked about depth and just getting the guys to the games. How nice is it to kind of see that depth play out in week 1?
It's important to get the guys to the game. And so, you know, we made a lot of changes, and I feel like they paid off. We're going to continue to work that way. I think our guys understand how important it is to practice, you know, with a certain tempo and be under control and stay off the ground and take care of their bodies and try to make sure we can get as many guys to the game as possible. I mean, football is a game of injuries. I mean, it's human performance. You know, some things you can't control. But you know, it was good to see depth out there, be able to rotate guys, be able to, you know, rotate D linemen. I remember there was times a year ago when we had like 3 D tackles rotating in, and one of them was a true freshman, and that's not a winning formula. You know, when you're trying to stop teams in the Big Ten and you only got 3 defensive tackles that can play in a game, I mean, that's crazy. So to be able to have, 7, 8, 9 guys up front that can go in there and play for you is huge, and it makes a big difference. Like on your defense, it affects your pass defense as well. Being able to stop the run, get them the third down, then get after the quarterback, rushing coverage working together. Same with the O-line. Same with the backs. We're getting healthier at running back. We should be able to add another guy to the mix this week, hopefully. We have multiple receivers. We have a gang of tight ends that can go out there and play for us. So it's we have to continue along that line of staying healthy, getting guys better, improving, practicing hard, but being smart, and that'll give us the best chance.
Mel, over here. A couple questions. First, Nathan Carter seems like a pretty humble kid. He talked about just how emotional he was coming out of the tunnel. He took blame for like 4th and 1 failures, just one of those type of kids. I'm wondering what you see from him personally every day, if you could sort of describe who he is, and then what you saw from him in Performance 1.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's a great teammate. He practices hard. He trains hard. He's very, very humble, hardworking. He's a pleaser. He wants to get it right. It's all about the team with him. He's a very spiritual kid, and he's got very, very strong faith, and he's just, he's an asset. He's a great teammate, and he's the type of guy that you want on your team. You want to be able to coach guys like him. You want to have teammates like him.
What did you see from performance-wise that stood out, or where he still needs improvement, or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, he's explosive. He's got good vision. He's quick. He runs hard. He keeps his feet moving on contact. He's smart. He's willing to block and pass pro and things like that. So he's just working to become an all-around player, and get better. He's still a young player, and he's got a lot of upside. And we're working to develop him, but he's accountable. Which we all are, or should be, need to be. We're all trying to get better. The word for the day was improvement. So we talked about it in the meetings, and that's what the guys were talking about on the field today. We all just need to get better, improve in the areas, offense, defense, and special teams. We left a lot of plays on the field Friday night, and so there's a lot of room to improve. There was a ton of positives as well, and we just made sure the kids knew, Nathan or whoever is like, hey, listen, there's a lot of positives, and we're going to celebrate those, and we're going to build on those, and these things that are not so good, we're going to have to clean these up if we expect to play better football, this weekend. And so that was our focus. But yeah, he's a great kid, and he's just going to continue to get better because he's a worker, and he's very, very coachable. He never makes an excuse ever.
Wanted to also ask you about Alante Braun. It was a little bit, he obviously took what looked like a pretty serious hit, and then was back in the game, and then was in street clothes. I'm wondering if you got an explanation since Friday night on sort of the decisions there to put him back in the game and then take him out.
Yeah, for me, I mean, all those decisions are all medical. If a guy plays, if he doesn't play, if he practices, he doesn't practice, it's all medical. And I don't have anything to do with those. And so they tell me a guy's up and he can go, then he'll play. If they tell me he's down, then he's out. And so that's what happened.
A couple things as well, Mel. Noah Kim has not been on that stage before. Did he have to overcome early nerves? Because he seemed to get better as the game went along. How did he grade out overall? Yeah, I mean, he did well. I mean, I'm not sure if it were nerves. I mean, he had some drops early. We had one ball that didn't look very good, and the crowd was booing, but you could see on the replay that the receiver fell down, and it was a really good ball. And it would have been right on the money. It would have hit the guy right in the face if he'd have stayed up. So, obviously there were some throws that he would like to get back, but, I mean, who doesn't have those? If you watch any game this weekend, I didn't see any quarterback out there that didn't throw a bad ball or make a bad decision. So he did get better as the game went. I thought we got better around him as well. And that was good. I mean, the kid's a winner as a starter in high school, and I'm not sure what his record is, but he hasn't lost very many games. Did you have any emotions watching Keon last night?
I'm always pulling for him. I mean, I'm very close with him. I recruited him myself. I'm close with he and his family, and so I was really, really excited for him. I was really happy for him.
With the game that you had on the defensive side and the quarterback you faced in Emmanuel, just what he was able to do in terms of shiftiness and kind of moving in the pocket and stretching things. How much does that help you for this Richmond team that has a similar quarterback, and then the following week with Penix? I mean, it seems like it's got a pretty good progression for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, quarterbacks that are mobile, you have to do a really good job with your rush. You have to be coordinated. You have to make sure that you have edges. You keep him in the pocket. If he does get out, you got to be able to second contain. You got to have scramble rules in the back end. I thought our guys did a good job with the scramble rules when he was running. There wasn't a lot of room to throw, and he ended up, had to, try to tuck it and get what he could get. But we want to keep those guys in the pocket and make them throw from the pocket the best we can. If they are on the run, we got to make them pay. We can't let guys run around. If guys are going to try to, if quarterbacks are going to try to run around with the ball, everything, we have to. There's got to be a price for that.
Mel, real quick, to avoid repetitive questions, anybody you want to say is out for the season, given the new injury reports, and we could skip asking you over and over about.
What are you asking me?
Anybody that's on that report last week that's out for the season.
Anybody that was on that report last week.
Or anybody else you'd like to say.
You know what? I can't answer that at this time. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm sorry.
That's right. So special teams, you breaking in new punters, kickers, Tyrell taking over on punts. Just what you thought of that performance overall on Friday.
Yeah, overall in special teams, we had it was a net win in terms of yardage for us. We had more pooch punts than they had, but we're breaking in a new punter, and we actually got O'Shaughnessy punted as well. That was good. A new kicker, both our kickers kicked, and that was good. And obviously Hank is back as our long snapper, and which we missed him dearly last year, and he was back, and that was huge. And so, and then with Tyrell, obviously as a returner, did a good job, and guys were doing a good job blocking for him. And we left some, the special teams meeting this morning was loud, extremely loud. Because we left some plays on the field, and we didn't finish some blocks, and we blew some assignments, and we had some big plays. We should have had some house calls. We should have had some big hits out there. We should have some bigger returns, and those are things we have to get cleaned up. And so, but there's a lot of positives, and that I know the kicking game, that was like a huge. I got asked that a lot in the out of season about the kicker, and punter, and things like that, and so. We're still a work in progress, but, we do have some guys that are very capable of getting the job done.
Mel, you've mentioned booing a couple of times. I'm curious why you thought there might be boos Friday night, and what do you generally think of that at this level?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like very similar to pro ball. And so I don't ever want our players to be surprised. So we try to prepare them from every situation, like during the week, in practice. We meet and we say, hey, this is what you can expect. If this happens, this. If this happens, you're just going over scenarios. And we were booed last year against Minnesota after the first series. And I said, hey, guys, we could get booed tonight. I said, we'll just, stick with the process, and keep chopping and, listen to the coaches. And that's what they did. And I was really proud of them for that.
Oh, my bad. I thought there was one more. Mel, I probably will revisit this in like October, November or something. But just after one game for you guys and a weekend of watching football, and just with the new clock rules, how does that factor into game plan, strategy, and stuff like that you guys might have to look at or change or anything?
It didn't factor in very much in this last game. And like I said, it just remains to be seen, like how much it does factor in. But it wasn't a factor in this game. I'm not exactly sure, how that's going to affect, next week or, down the road. We'll just have to see.
Did it feel like it moved fast, I guess, or anything from your perspective? Or just...
Did it feel like it was moving faster? Yeah. No, it didn't feel like it was moving faster. I didn't notice a difference. I did not.
Mel, you always talk about playing fast and being aggressive. How do you coach to eliminate the twisting of the face mask penalties? I think there were 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you have two types of penalties, 2 categories the way we describe them. You have aggressive penalties and you have foolish penalties, like a false start or too many guys on the field. That's just dumb, right? Then you have some aggressive penalties, like it might be a bang-bang PI. or there may be a face mask where guys, he got straining, he's trying to get off a block, he reaches out, grabs a face mask, and those are things, you can clean up the aggressive penalties with technique, better technique. How do you get in a better position to begin with so you can make a better tackle and so you're not on the guy's face, and so we can clean those up. The foolish penalties, you just can't, it's just unacceptable, so we're not going to be a penalty, we're coaching our players to eliminate foolish penalties. Like there's one penalty, that Harmon got. I didn't see it. I don't know what happened. So we turn that in, and we'll get the, interpretation back from the league of what did he do wrong. So we have to coach off of those. Say, hey, this is foolish. This is aggressive. How do we clean this up? But we're not trying to coach a team to be penalty free. We just want to eliminate the foolish penalties because we're going to have some aggressive penalties. If guys are playing aggressively, there's going to be some of those. There'll be some holds. There'll be some PIs. There'll be some maybe some things like that we're going to clean those up. With technique and understanding like how it affects the game. Like for example, when total was like 116 yards in like penalties with like net for us, like that we gave them 116 yards, and every 100 yards is like a touchdown, right? And so you can see like this touchdown they got was on penalties. That's how they got in that position in the first place. And so when the players, we talk to them about it, then they can actually see how it affects. We could have had a shutout, but because of these penalties, they got down there. Now it means a little bit more, and we have to eliminate those. And it's coaching, and it's also the players have to take ownership on that. You typically don't see too many that many like face mask penalties in a game, but we did. Guys are playing hard though. I can say that. I'd rather coach guys through that as opposed to coaching guys who won't hit anybody.
The Harmon one you got off that first drive.
Yeah. Still trying to figure out what happened on that. So we'll see what the league says, and we'll coach them off of that.
Just one more on Alante Brown. I know he tweeted that he was all good. Do you know, have you checked in with him? Is there an update on how he feels days after, or are there any steps being taken with him going forward for him?
I don't have any updates for you right now. Maybe later in the week I might have more for you.
Do you know if he'll be in any type of like protocol or anything like that?
Like
or
I said,
does that go along with that?
I don't have any updates yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Badgers take the road this week to Washington State. 6:30 kickoff on ABC. Head coach Fickell's here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thanks. It was a great weekend. And I mean that. I do. I thought obviously the weather was awesome. I don't know that I would have told you that it was the hottest game in Camp Randall history. I think that might have to go back and check the records. But it was a really, really good environment, good atmosphere. It was great to see, obviously everybody, but in particular the student section as well. I'm not sure exactly what time they all got filed in there, but I know that it was definitely something that I was excited about seeing. It was awesome. I know we talked about the whole end of the third quarter, the jump around. I appreciate the situation that we were in because I got to enjoy for 30 or 40 seconds there. So that was great. And I got to say that because I don't want to sound ungrateful, right? I think after the game, I probably wasn't as fired up as maybe I needed to be because winning is not easy, and ultimately that's what it comes down to. And deep down inside, I just felt like we were sloppy. And I think that's where, to me, it's hard to be really, really excited when you just don't play the sound way, and some things that we had put a great emphasis on. And it's awesome because it gives us an opportunity to kind of come back here the second week and this entire, practice opportunities to really kind of focus ourselves back in and to recognize the things that we didn't do as well. But there's some great things as well. I think that obviously the way we ran the football is to be noted for sure, right? Both Ches and Braylon had incredible days. I know there's some stat with, the leading rushers in the Big Ten and only 100-yard rushers maybe on the weekend in the bigger conferences. So they had a great, and I think that was awesome for them. It was awesome for us to set a kind of a tone and a tempo to make sure everybody understands that, we're a physical football team. We're going to run the football. We were good defensively on third downs, maybe not as well as the stats look. I think there was a few of those third and longs that they got into situations where they could go for them on fourth down. But if you really look at it, I think that's the difference in the ball game. I think we were they were 2 of 15 on third and fourth down, and we were exceptionally well, had done exceptionally well on fourth down. So there's a lot of really good things to build upon, and as we go into this week, we're going to definitely build upon those things.
Luke, I don't know how much you've looked at what Washington State's quarterback can do. Have you okay?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay, a little. I just didn't know how far along you were, but a little different than the guy you just faced. Now, their coach said they want him to stay in the pocket more than he's been in the past. But is he still a threat if your rush lanes are not where they need to be?
Oh yeah, I don't think he ran as much as last year as he did in game one, and I think maybe that's what they're kind of referring to. But it was a situation that they were in, and he was aggressive, and I think that it's definitely noticeable, different than what probably we had watched from our game last year. I didn't watch a ton of other things on them last year, watching a little bit more, for them in particular, what kind of offense they are this year, and obviously studying game one. But I think that there are some definitely differences to him. His ability, his aggressive nature, I think running the football is probably the one thing that I noticed more than anything.
Luke, it seems like Tanner maybe has slowed down his snaps a little bit to make sure that they're accurate after some struggles in the spring. How do you think, does it affect the offense at all, or are you okay with that trade-off?
I'm not sure what you mean by slowed down his snaps.
The snaps themselves are a little bit slower than he was trying to do in the spring.
Oh, you mean actually the speed of the snap? Okay, I thought you meant the speed of the tempo of the game. No, I don't. I think everything's about getting a little bit of comfort level. I think that's why it's such a unique connection that between the quarterback and the center. Just, sometimes it's a little bit more of how the quarterback wants it as well. And ultimately, I'm sure the quarterback would say, I don't care how you get it back out fast. It's best if it's in a certain location. But I think there's a lot of growth there too. I think what we had on Saturday was much better than maybe even the spring, and even sometimes in fall camp. So I think Tanner, obviously being his first year really playing center, has grown a lot, and will do nothing but get better at it.
Luke, you emphasized in the offseason with this team, they went 1-4 in games decided in the fourth quarter last season. This was one of those games. How much will you discuss last season, even though you guys weren't here as a staff, and is that part of the messaging going into this one?
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, you studied last year as well, because it's still a lot of the personnel, right? And so a lot of the things that you're looking at least offensively from them last year, there's some similarities, obviously, what they've done, but you're looking more at personnel, tendencies and things like that, whether offensive linemen, whether the backs, and obviously the quarterback. But I don't know that we're, making an overemphasis on what the situation was last year. I think the guys that were here understand it and know that. There's a lot of other things for us to focus on, being our first, road trip, road challenge, and obviously a great challenge for us. But no matter what, this is one of the games that we've talked about how to finish. And so the emphasis on finishing will continue to be, pounded in the entire week. And I would probably tell you that it's probably going to be pounded the entire season.
Luke, since we're still trying to get to know you a little bit, have you learned anything over the years about getting the team ready to play on the road? Do you have key things that you need to see during a week or in the lead up?
No, I don't know that there's any in particular. I think that you got to do things a little bit earlier. You got to make sure that, the idea of what you would get, and even rest and some things like that late in the week, you don't get as much of it when you're going on the road. I think the idea that, specific things, offensive and defensive, that you have to do to be successful on the road is critical. And, I'm not telling you something that any other coach wouldn't tell you, but, you can't go on the road and turn the ball over. You can't go on the road and not be able to run the football. You can't go on the road and, have an incredible amount of penalties. Those are things that are really difficult when you're in an environment that's not your own to overcome. So that whole idea of being disciplined and playing clean that we emphasized last week, and why I didn't feel like we, played the way we should, and that sloppiness is, the things that are going to be key for this week.
Luke, you keep talking about playing clean, and that's kind of your catchphrase, so to speak.
I'm curious, what does that mean to you? Can you define it? And what does that look like for your football team?
Well, we emphasize aggressive. So when we talk about playing clean, it's kind of the pre and post snap penalties. And that's where we were good yesterday or on Saturday. No pre-snap penalties, no post-snap penalties. But also it's taking care of the football. That's just playing clean. That's leveraging the football defensively and tackling well. And those are the three areas that when you talk about being clean that we were not very good on Saturday. Good on the pre and post snap, but the other 2 or 3 areas about leveraging the football defensively, playing with great leverage in the passing game, and tackling well. Those are going to be obviously things that if we don't get corrected will be a Achilles heel for us all year.
Luke, kind of a two-parter here. First, with Jordan's suspension, is that something that you and the program are looking to appeal? And then second, how did you assess how Jake Chaney played, potentially having a bigger role even coming up if Jordan is missing the first half?
Well, yeah, I don't expect to have Jordan. There's an appeal out there, but I don't know. I think you got 24 hours, so we should hear for sure. But we're not counting on that. We'll learn from it and continue to move on. The good fortune for us is I think we got 3 starting inside linebackers. I wouldn't say we have 2. I wouldn't say that Jake Chaney is not a starter and wasn't a starter. So I don't think we miss, a whole lot. Obviously we miss Jordan, but I don't think that you're like, oh, you're out of a starter. What we don't have is the depth. We don't have the ability to roll as much, and that's tough. But Jake did a great job. I thought he played a really good football game. I know he wasn't as fired up as I was about his game. As I called him up after the game, and he was, kind of curious as to why he'd be up there, because I don't think I played that well. But what he provides energy-wise, what he provides in flexibility for us to be able to do, he provides a lot. So excited for him. It's another opportunity for him. But he also knows that we need Jordan too, and it looks like we're getting back to second half.
Luke, if I remember correctly, on your last radio show before the opener, you talked about the fact that tackling was going to kind of keep you up at night because you didn't do it. Do you think that was a factor, or sometimes first games can be a contributing factor?
Yeah, I think
as well?
Twofold. I think that the ability for us to play what's more control. I think that we don't talk about that a whole lot. We talk more about the effort and the energy and your ability to play fast, and maybe there was a little bit more of an emphasis on that, and not as much of fast as fast as you can play, but still be under control. And so I kind of had a feeling that might be that way, but I think everybody's a little bit different. And I think if I look back at it, I'd say, okay, now after being in game 1, maybe we should have tackled a little bit more in the spring. Maybe we should have tackled in fall camp. I didn't have an effect on our running backs. They did a good job at taking care of the football, and when they had opportunity to make people miss, they weren't out of practice of making guys miss. So, you can always look back at it, but I think most importantly that, in some ways you knew you had to be able to play through that, especially in the first game.
Luke, when you're going against an offense like Washington State, excuse me, that runs as much up-tempo as they do, how big is it for your defense that's kind of an offense that they've been going up against all throughout spring and fall?
Yeah, I think this is going to be faster than what we've been probably experiencing for the most part through spring and through fall. So the good news is we've gotten some work at it, but it's always different when all of a sudden you get, especially you go on the road, you get in a new environment, you get the anxiety of actual game. So those kinds of things are really critical. And on that whole idea of being clean, I think the one thing that sometimes the pace of the game and the tempo of the game can do to you is cause you some of that, those issues, and so if you're not sound and you're not clean in what you're doing, sometimes the tempo will affect you even more. So that's why I think we've got our work cut out for us. And I think in the way we prepare for this, and not just like say, okay, well we've handled tempo because our offense gives us to it. All spring and all fall camp. There's a difference to it, and the things that kind of showed up a little bit defensively in particular in week 1 were the things that will even be highlighted more with this pace of the game.
Luke, I know coaches always emphasize turnovers, but Washington State's quarterback had 3 fumbles last week. I mean, is that something that you talk to your linebackers, your D linemen a little bit more about this week and kind of emphasize? We
emphasize it every week, and we didn't end up getting any last week. I think we, and And it's not like, well, you dropped one interception or you had an opportunity. No, every time they run the football, there's an opportunity to, knock the ball loose. And so it's not just those shots that you had where the ball was in the air. It's something we talk about every week. I think it's a great equalizer, especially going on the road. Maybe there are some ball security issues, but a couple of those ones from last week were bad snaps. And I think the ball's on the ground, and obviously it falls on the shoulders of the quarterback. But I think there's a little bit of a connection there that I'm sure are some of those things that they'll be talking about that they've got to really clean up from week one.
Luke, it seemed like Alexander Smith and Nizer Forkron split reps in that press man role. What do you like about the pairing between them and Rico Holman, and what did you see from Nizer this past week?
He stepped in there and did a great job. I mean, we had a plan to be able to play both those guys more in particular into the boundary. Just with the way the game, I think, was going, we didn't put Nizer over to the field and give him a little bit more of a break from Rico, even though there was more action to the field than sometimes you get. But I thought both those guys did a great job. I thought we knew going in there that we wanted to be able to roll those guys. We don't want them to have to play all 70, 80 snaps, whatever it is that we ended up playing. But we got to find a way to be able to do that with Rico as well and give him a little bit of relief too. But I think that's what we've seen through all of fall camp, that we've got the ability to play for sure with those three guys, and we need to get the fourth one ready as well.
Luke, one of the questions on the outside about this defense coming into the season was how the D-line and the outside linebackers would perform without a Keanu or a Nick Herbig. After watching the film, what was your assessment of those two position groups in particular from the first game?
I thought they were the strength of our team. They did a great job. I thought that, sometimes it doesn't come up in the stat book. Right after the game, you could see the frustration, and at halftime, you could see the frustration on some of those guys' face. But I think when that ball's in rhythm, when they're getting, they were not going to take a sack. I don't know that we had a tackle for loss or a sack. So the negative yardage plays were really difficult to come by, and I'm sure there was a part of a plan for them. Not that anybody wants to give up, minus yardage plays or sacks, but the idea of getting rid of the football, don't take in a sack, put themselves in situations where they're not behind the sticks. Our guys up front played really sound. They were, if I'd said that we were sloppy, in a lot of areas, it was not up front. I thought they did a really good football job. They didn't get overly frustrated with how the game was going and the stats that weren't able to come their way. But when it came down to it, they did the job we needed to, especially on short yard situations.
Luke, over, I think it was like 4 or 5 days ago, Mike Trenelia was added to the roster. Just can you describe how that came about and what you've kind of learned about him in the last few days?
He did a great job in week one. We were obviously got a little thin on the tight end position, and it's hard to have some guys to help rep down there with the when you go exchange units. So he came in, got his acclimatization in really quick, and was probably not kind of like slow put into the program. He probably on Monday, Tuesday practice probably racked up around 50, 60 reps a day, and so it's a good thing we've got him, and good thing he was kind of ready to roll for us.
You mentioned wanting to roll through corners and get a fourth guy. I assume Mac is still, you're waiting to hear on that appeal for Mac?
Well, there is an appeal out.
I just didn't know if you had heard anything yet.
Well, originally, no. They said there'll be an appeal. I'm going to kind of hold my tongue to say anything about the Air Force Academy and how they've treated the kid, in my opinion. But we'll wait on what the NCAA, it's in their hands, and we kind of leave it at that.
You weren't given was
yeah, he was denied.
And then
there's an appeal, which is tough. I understand that I'm not saying anything against the NCAA. It's in their hands, but at some point in time, I will say how I feel about the way he's been treated by where he went to school. And
I've talked to a few of your players about glue guys in the locker room, and somebody that's come up a few times.
guys?
Glue guys.
Oh, okay.
One of the guys that's come up a few times is Sean Timmis, a guy that just seems like everybody. Yeah, you laugh. It seems like everybody has a good story about him. Just what have you learned about him since you've been?
I don't have any
program?
stories about. I just know that he's a guy that everybody enjoys to be around, and he keeps it light. And you need that, and especially in that group. I think that's a group that obviously is a really, really serious group, and we put a lot of pressure upon them, and we will continue to put pressure upon them. But he is a guy that does not take him. I don't say it's bad. Take himself too seriously. He has a great sense of humor. He is a incredible team player, meaning that, he's been here for a few years and he still doesn't bat an eye at going down there and being a part of the exchange and giving guys great looks and working every single day. You can't do what we do without having guys like that. And he goes even further. I think he does a lot more in that room for the rest of that group, just to make sure they kind of keep them level-headed and keep a smile on their face when it gets pretty nasty in those trenches, though.
I say, Luke, you had talked about finding a fourth cornerback. How close is someone like a Jonas DeClona or even like a Jace Arnold or anyone else in that cornerback room that could be that fourth cornerback? Yeah, I mean that's where we were. That's where I was curious as to where Michael would fit in if he was able to play this year. But Jonas is definitely right now the next guy. Wish we would have played it, and he's going to play this year. I mean, he's a guy that we got to get on special teams now because he's not a guy we're trying to save for 4 games. He's a guy that's proven it all through camp. I mean, he's taken in the spring ball. He took all the 2 reps, I think, all through fall camp. He took basically majority of all, if not all, the 2 reps as well. He's there. We've got confidence in him. I just think that based on the situation, he didn't get an opportunity to go in last week, but this may be the week, just in particular at the tempo and the pace that they'll go with.
Luke, I know you had it in the past, but the team acronym on your vest. Why is that important to you, and kind of what's the message there?
It's a reminder to myself. It's a reminder to all of us that we can't do this alone, and I think that it's even more important in today's world, right? I mean, everybody socially walks in the game afterwards, and whether you have stats or you don't have stats, and whether you got an opportunity to play or you didn't get an opportunity to play, and if we're going to be successful and we're going to play our best ball at the end of the year and we're going to continue to grow, we've got to be able to stay together, and no matter what, coaches as well. We can't get into one side of the ball. We can't say, well, how many yards do we have, or why didn't we have any sacks, or how many No, the idea is we got to win. The idea is we got to find ways to continue to get better and play complementary football in all phases. So it's a reminder. I'm not a big guy. I don't pound it every day and tell the guys every day. It's just a reminder to them that, hey, that together all of us will achieve more. If we aren't together, then we'll just be resting on our individual abilities, and I'm going to tell you that that's probably not going to be good enough.
You're probably going to roll your eyes when I ask this, but people ask me about it. You were dressed in black on one of the hottest days of the year, but that's kind of a thing for you, right? Like that's your game day attire. I mean, do you consider like just coming out in white or red or something else?
No, I don't. I mean, it's probably the same exact attire as every day at practice, whether it was we get later in the year where it's going to be 10 degrees out, or it's going to be the day earlier in the year was 98 or 97, where they didn't want us to go outside, or they were starting to ask what we were doing different. And I'm like, we're doing nothing different. We're going to continue to practice and go about our business, be smart, but we're going to play in this. And it just happened to be game 1, hottest game in record. So I think we're ready for it. Johnny Cash.
How would you assess Kamoe's day? I know, obviously, you talked about the tackles. There were some issues there.
Yeah, I think he struggled early. I think the thing we look at for him is more so the second half. I think that, you saw him say he settled down. I think we've got to have the ability with those guys to be able to roll a little bit too. And if a guy gets into a situation where they, get over aggressive, they get out of their, norm of what they need to do, then you got to be able to settle him down. And he's an emotional guy, and I love that about him. But I think that until the second half, I don't think he kind of calmed down a little bit. And, game 1, I put it on myself a little bit too of trying to rile guys up. And all along, we have effort and attitude. Effort eliminates mistakes. And there was not a lack of effort. And I think it just, probably overtook him a little bit in the first half. He had some missed tackles. He had a missed leverage. But the good thing is when you look back at the second half, he was much more under control. He had some sure tackles, made some really good plays, and did a lot more things that he's going to need to do for us to continue to grow.
I have a non-football question for you. As we're trying to get to know you better,
I don't talk a whole lot about non-football things.
Don't worry. I promise. With your kids being college athletes, what does the Fickell family group message look like right now? And how are you you have a very unique position as having kids who are college athletes and being a coach. You can kind of empathize. Kind of what do those game day texts look like?
Some of them talk to you a little bit more than the others. It just depends, You kind kind of let them do their thing a little bit too. I think that's probably the thing with us is as our kids, for the first time away from us, you want the ability to be there, and you can't, but you kind of let them grow themselves as well. And we're all there for each other. Like my daughter was in California this past weekend as we're playing, and my son obviously is in Cincinnati, and then my boys are playing on Friday night. So I think they do a better job at connecting with each other, I think, when it's all said and done. But it's not the easiest thing in the world. And it's the first time we've really had to go through it because, we've never been apart. My daughter's obviously a freshman and my son was with us. So it is a little bit unique and different. But the good thing is there is communications. I think just some do it a little bit better. I think my daughter does it a little bit better than I do and definitely better than my oldest son.
Yeah, just building off that real quick. I mean, we saw
Ryan, some different challenges going on the road at Virginia Tech, and obviously a different style of team. So just what kind of challenges, I guess, are there from turning around and forgetting about Saturday and getting on to the next one?
Yeah, obviously an electric atmosphere. We showed a clip of Inner Sandman and our team meeting last night on the Virginia Tech intro. And so it'll be a first time where all of us are traveling together as a team. And it's hard to do that on the road and all the challenges that face us from a schematic standpoint. Very balanced offensively, 11 and 12 personnel. Quarterback is a big guy that's a lot more athletic than you want him to be. Very long team on both sides of the ball. Big up front, big on the perimeter. Defensively, you're going to see a 4-2 shell. Predominantly quarters and cover 3 on early downs. They got a defensive tackle. Pollard is an explosive player, really long, tall in the second level, that are athletic, and then talented on the outside. So our work is cut out for us for sure. Got to pay attention to the details and be confident in our technique and fundamentals, and it'll be a huge challenge and an exciting one to go on the road.
Do you anticipate Josh Kaltenberger being back this week?
If everything kind of goes according to his rehab, if it stays on schedule, I would anticipate him being available, yes.
And last thing, Caleb Crockever was doing the kickoffs for most of the game the other day. Is that a path you'd like to go where you have a different kickoff specialist and a different guy for field goals and extra points?
Yeah, just whoever gives us the best chance to be successful in both of those phases.
Yeah, Ryan, you've had a chance to look at the film. Kind of give us a sense of maybe some of your takeaways, some of the good, and some things you need to improve at.
Yeah, after watching it, you're definitely frustrated because there were opportunities all over the place to win that football game. There were times where we played clean and were explosive on both sides of the ball. Defensively, it felt like it was, feast or famine. It was either 3 and out, or it was or they were scoring points, and a lot of that had to do with our third down efficiency. You look at the game in its totality, and I think that kind of told the story. Obviously time of possession was very heavily favored in Fresno State's direction, and that was because they were 11 of, I believe, 17 offensively getting third downs, and we were 2 of 12, and that we got to come up with a better plan schematically, and then we got to play with confidence and pay attention to the details so that we can execute from a player standpoint. Got to come up with a better short yardage plan. I think we had 4 opportunities to extend drives that were 2 yards or less, and came away with no yards. So definitely got to be better in on third downs on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, talk about the debut of Dylan Thieneman. Maybe the best defensive player on the field for you. Just your thoughts on the true freshman.
Yeah, I was very, very pleased and excited for him, but wasn't surprised. That we've seen that style of play and that consistency from him since the springtime. And so, like I said before, the beautiful thing about football is that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't care about what's happened prior to the game. It's all about the guys that are on the field, and he has deserved his spot on the roster and his spot on the depth chart.
You just talk a little bit, too, about the depth at which he plays. It seems very unique 15, 20 yards off the field. I'm sure that's always been part of your scheme, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it just allows you to stop explosives and be able to overlap on balls thrown down the field, which in theory allows you to be aggressive on short to intermediate throws. And I think that's one of the areas that we need to improve and trust, going into a game. But just, that depth allows them to see the quarterback, allows them to see things kind of folding in front of them, to be able to put them in position to go make plays.
How much stock do you put in a team making its most improvement from game 1 to game 2?
Just typically, if historical trends continue, then you do see a huge jump from game 1 to game 2. I'm fully anticipating that to happen. Like I said, there were times where things looked like they are supposed to look and look like how they've looked in practice and throughout fall camp. And so I'm fully confident that the consistency with which we need to play to win a game will start showing up more and more. This team is obviously we're all new together, and we will continue to improve as the season goes.
First game as a head coach, how do you think it went?
We lost. You know what I mean? Obviously, what the atmosphere at Ross 8 is everything that you want it to be. Just the feelings of euphoria. We're all there, and we got to come away with wins. That's why we're here. That's not the standard and not the expectation to have opportunities to win. It's to win ball games. So very disappointed. You don't play that out to go that way in your mind, but you also can't overreact and panic. From one game. I said that was a good opponent. You got to give Fresno State a lot of credit and that coaching staff a lot of credit. They've done a lot of things in that program to lead to success. And so when you make mistakes like we made, and can't extend drives or can't get off the field, it's hard to win.
Any postscript on Hudson Card's performance now that you've had a chance to sort of digest it?
Yeah, you saw flashes of what he's capable of doing, both with his arm and his legs. We got to do a better job of protecting him and giving him an opportunity to stand in there and deliver, accurate and confident throws. I thought we did a good job of catching the ball well. Still need to be more disciplined with splits and depths of some of our route concepts, but. Like I said, we had opportunities to win a game and played explosive at times, and we will definitely improve.
Your pass rush was, talked about a lot over the offseason, supposed to be one of your stronger units. Didn't look like they got a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback Saturday. What did you see there?
I would disagree, actually. We hit him a lot. I think we hurt him a little bit before halftime, sacked him a couple times. We just got to cover longer. There a lot of times, as soon as the ball is leaving his hands, we got guys in his face. I thought KJ and Nick were able to get pressure. We got to keep him in the pocket as well. Got to be disciplined with our rush lanes, and I thought that was also added to extended drives on third down in particular. But early downs, they were getting the ball out pretty quick with the quick game, so you're not going to get there on a three-step concept, but. Some of our, third and mediums to third and longers felt like we got there. We just got to cover a little bit longer.
And then, it was your first, obviously first game you coached, but then also the first game that you were actually coaching with your staff and everyone on that sideline. So how was the game day, workflow there, and did it run as smoothly as you wanted it to?
Yeah, obviously you're going to improve, week in and week out, and you're always going to find things to critique to get better. But I thought, the communication was clear. I thought we were pretty clean from a substitution standpoint. We had the one where we had to burn a timeout offensively, but other than that, I thought it was smooth. Nobody was panicking. Nobody was, overly dramatic or anything like that. And so we'll continue to get better.
What's your philosophy? This is your first road trip. Do you like to leave later? I know you maybe leave later in the afternoon. Do you like to do walkthroughs? What will be your stamp on how you handle road games? Is it all dependent on the start time of the game? How do you handle?
Yeah, a lot of will be dependent on what time the kickoff is. We'll do our walkthroughs there. We'll do meetings there. It's good to just get out, travel, get a lay of the land, get used to your surroundings, in order to put yourself in position to win a game on the road.
Kept a pretty tight rotation at wide receiver. I think only 3 guys played more than 4 snaps. Is that the trust in those 3 guys, or would you like more guys to establish themselves there?
I think it was a combination of the game getting tight and kind of going with who you trusted that you've seen the majority of throughout fall camp. But I do think we also need to rotate guys more. That was one of the things that we discussed as a staff post game is we got to be more precise on our rotations and giving guys an opportunity that are fresh to go showcase what they can do and gain some more experience. So I'd anticipate the reps to be more evenly distributed, but not evenly distributed, but more rotation for sure.
You ask a lot of Scourton and Jenkins in their roles. How did they, handle that first game in terms of all the stuff you asked them to do?
Yeah, obviously there's plays that you want back, but I thought they played with speed and physicality. I think that's also another position group that we got to rotate a little bit more. They got quality guys behind them that can play winning football, and so to keep that group fresh, I think would be key as well in terms of getting to the quarterback and causing pressure for him.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, appreciate it.
Guys.
All right, appreciate all you guys for being here. I think the guys have done a good job since Thursday night, working hard to improve as a team. Excited about this week. Obviously, going on the road again versus another Power 5 opponent. A great chance for us to take a step as a team to improve, try to go 1-0 this week. I have a lot of respect for the team that we're playing. I had a chance to watch them on Saturday. Obviously, playing a ranked team. They'll be a ranked team this week, and maybe even a top 10 team, and that's well deserved. So excited to see our guys match that environment, handle that environment, and excited for the week. So with that, I'll see what questions you guys have.
Any updates on any of the injured guys? From
Isaiah Garcia Castaneda got hit in the side of the knee towards ACL. So heartbroken for him. Really one of the great stories on our team, and sad for him, really sad for him. So Nick and Jamari, we'll see, going through tomorrow and the day after if they're ready to play or not.
What's the plan at receiver? Just losing kind of one of your starting guys. Who do you really look for this week to kind of step up in the reps?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all hands on deck. It'll be those young guys. We got Jalen in, got him on the reverse. Hoping Malachi, can help us. Obviously, we'll have Marcus now back full time. So it'll just kind of be all hands on deck. We'll use all those guys. We used Heinrich last game a little bit, so we're just going to have to kind of go with the guys that are there and trust and believe that they'll make the plays.
How do you see, Jeff respond the last few days, and sort of having been around him the last 8 months, what do you think of his sort of mentality about being able to bounce back from maybe not as
when I left last night, he was in there watching tape. So, he's not the first quarterback that's ever thrown 3 interceptions. He'll the great ones bounce back from it and even better. So I think you find out about people when they go through a little bit of adversity. So obviously, he had not been trending that way. Got in the game, made some plays that if he could take back, he would, but he can't. So we'll just be there for him as he gets better this week.
How much weight do you put on one game with Colorado film for preparation, not just considering it's the first game of the season?
Well, I think you both, they have really good coaches. Okay, so I think you go back and look at their coordinators. Okay, you go back and look at Sean Lewis at Kent State. Sean's, I consider him a friend. He's an excellent coach. He comes out of the Art Briles, Dino Babers tree. So you're going to get the ball run from B gap to B gap. You know that they're going to attack you on the perimeter. You know they're going to take 10 deep ball shots a game. They have the guys that can go down the field and go up, and their ball skills are elite. They've got the quarterback who can make those throws. So it's really a perfect storm, perfect hire. That style of offense with that skill set of guys that they have, plus the altitude and tempo in Boulder, right? So it's really well thought out. On defense, Obviously, Coach Kelly, comes from the Saban tree. You're watching Florida State film. You're watching, so you can't look at everything just what they did, last week, because obviously they were facing a unique offense in TCU. It's like two different worlds of what we played against last week compared to what they're doing. So, but we're studying everything, right? Obviously they have a lot of new players that we're watching. But we have new players. They're seeing our guys for the first time too. So, a lot of work's been done in the summer. A lot of work's being done right now.
The challenge of that tempo with their skill talent. Obviously, tackling is always important, but how do you maybe prepare to tackle those guys in space?
Yeah, we've been practicing versus tempo all training camp because it's a good way to practice, right? On defense, it's a good way to prepare. It's a good way to get in shape. The things that we teach, track in the near hip, all the different fundamentals that we believe in, they show up in these games, right? What has a tendency to happen is when it goes that fast, guys start to get sloppy. And this, for our guys, they're going to have to make this football. This has to be football. This can't be about tempo. This can't be about altitude. This can't be about playing a ranked opponent or being on the road. It just has to be football. And if we do that, that's what we've done all training camp. We'll have a chance. There's obviously a lot of questions about how would the 3-3-5 stack up to big people. I thought, we handled the run game in the last game pretty well. This is, as you said, a whole unique challenge, right? Maybe more designed for the 3-3-5, So we'll just have to play well, though. It's going to be football. We have to play good football.
What were you able to do with the extra 2 days that you don't normally have after a game this weekend to help get them to move on and get ready? And what did you see from the guys' mentality when you were around them this week?
Yeah, I don't think there's any moving on. I mean, there's not at the end of the day, we're going to play each week. There's a great Kobe quote. We're going to come back and do the journey all over again, whether we win or lose. And, we go through the opponent. We go through the last game. So Friday we came in. We got back late. We came in Friday afternoon. We went through the opponents. We went through the game, This is what we did well. This is what we didn't do well. Everything's very methodical and unemotional, because there was a lot of good. It wasn't like one of those hey, we're down by 2 scores and we scored at the end to make it a 1-score game. Like, we had the lead. Unfortunately, we made some catastrophic errors down the stretch, right? And so we learned from those. We eliminate those mistakes. We have a chance to win that game. So that was Friday. Saturday we gave the guys off. Now I was in here Saturday morning working, and we had a ton of guys in here taking care of their bodies, recovering. It's been a long camp. And then brought them in yesterday, and we started on Colorado. It's a little unique for us as coach. Like, I went home and watched the game on TV because I didn't know what to expect. You know what I mean? Like, not like you can watch it on tape. There was no. This is the first game, so having a chance to watch the game was good. See the flow of the game, see them in action. And now, yesterday we came in here and worked with the guys last night. Today's their off day, and we'll get back to work tomorrow morning.
Were you as surprised as the rest of the nation was watching what Colorado did?
No. Coach Sanders is a football guy, and so while you can watch all these peripheral things, while you can see, they show their practices, you can watch all the stuff on TV. At the end of the day, when has he ever not been serious about football? He's been a head coach now. He's won both places, so they've got elite players, elite skill players, and elite players up and down the front. They've got anytime you have a great quarterback, you're going to have a chance to win. So I wasn't surprised at all.
What do you mean football guy? I mean, what goes into that?
He's won in everything he's done in football. He's won as a player. He's won as a coach. So I think everyone maybe thinks outside, not me. Everyone else thinks well, this is all a show, and that he's the most serious person about football. His poster was on people's walls for a reason as a player, because he's one of the hardest practicing, hardest playing people that's ever played the game, right? So why would we think that his team wouldn't be the same? CJ White's on our staff, was a strength coach for him. He told us early on, let me tell you how they're going to practice. Let me tell you what they're going to do. So the utmost respect for Coach Sanders. When he was the head coach of Trinity Christian, I recruited Quaylen Jones out of there. He's a football guy. He's all the other stuff, the commercials and all those things. Those are extra things you get to do when you're elite at football. But I'm not surprised at all. I think everything he's ever done in football, he's been successful at, and so he's being successful here already.
How do you deal with a guy like Travis Hunter when you know he's going to play both sides and his skill set? And what do you think about him playing 103 snaps in week 1?
Well, he's one of the most conditioned athletes I've ever seen. So God bless him. His long speed is unbelievable. His ability to his ability to accelerate at 30 yards is something that's hard to simulate in practice. But I think the biggest thing about Travis is he's just his ball skills. You know, I mean, he goes up and even the one where his foot landed out of bounds. I mean, his ball skills. So that's really going to be the theme of the week. Again, with this offense, they're going to throw the ball down the field 10 times a game minimum. You have to play the ball. You know what I'm saying? And he can go up and get the ball. You saw him do it on offense. You saw him do it on defense. I mean, he took the ball out of the young man's hands on the flat route in the end zone. It wasn't like he got the ball first. He took it out of his hands. But if you watch them practice all summer on the stuff that they put out, I mean, he's got those kind of ball skills. So he's a competitor.
You had an added challenge with Ty out for the first half, but how did you feel about just the other guys who stepped in? You kind of went back and watched the tape and you rotated up front.
Yeah, they played well, but you know, Ty was at a different level when he was playing. You know, he got to the quarterback 4 or 5 times. You know, obviously, unfortunately, we won't have him for the first half. I told him, you're playing every play of the second half when you get back there, so you better rest up. So, but yeah, Ty's level of football, I thought in the first half, you know, while he was playing was really impressive. But we played a lot of guys. We were able to get some guys in, some guys for 2 or 3, 4 or 5 plays, some guys for more. But we'll need all that versus this tempo. We'll need all that versus this opponent.
How pleased were you with this, the physicality and the tackling you guys played with both on defense and special teams?
Yeah, you know, again, I'm a kind of an incrementalist. I'm kind of a process guy. So I can say 2 things and mean them. Like, crushed that we lost the game the way we did for the guys, right? Not for me, for the guys. Upset for them. At the same time, recognizing how much better the football is than early last year. And so I'm proud of that for them. Like, hey, look what practice has gotten you to. Now we have to make, you know, to turn the ball over 4 times and have 2 false starts inside the 5 and versus a Big Ten opponent and have the lead is outrageous, you know. So we have to clean all that up. But also, I recognize the things that are better. So my mind is just very simply the way I think you build a program that's built to last, that's not just a flash in the pan, is you just keep improving the things that aren't good, you know, that aren't improved. So, you know, early in the game, I walked out on the field and I was like, hey guys, they're 4 or 5 right now on 3rd down. It's just about 3rd down. It's not like, are we good? Are we bad? It's just 3rd down, right? And so we got better at 3rd down as the game went on. Tony adjusted. So, you know, I'd like to see us make those steps in our passing game this week. I'd like to see us make those steps, obviously, in protecting the football this week and taking the ball away. So, but I thought we were really physical. I thought we ran the ball hard, and I thought you couldn't you know, we played 4 or 5, 6 linebackers. You know, like we rotated guys in, and there was no like, oh, he's in, call it differently, right? You know, Javen goes in. Javen's really playing well. Mekhi Bear was unbelievable on special teams. And he gets in on defense, and you see him play well, right? And then you know, you're playing MJ, you're playing Chief. So if we can do that as we get into the stretch of Big Ten play, you know, we'll have a bunch of guys that can play and help us that all play to the same standard. This week, we'll just have to be able to do it versus excellent skill, as Sam asked, and then versus tempo.
With Heinrich, what has he shown you as a pass catcher, and what's he able to contribute in that area?
Yeah, Heinrich's like, you know, he's about 230 pounds. He runs 4.5. He's competitive. So we had some more things in for him. I think, you know, one of the, again, I never want to sound like excuses, but, you know, one of the things that kind of, we had 3 drives in the first half. The first one, you know, kind of came in with like, hey, we're going to start this way. The ball starts at the 1-yard line. Just kind of never got that rhythm going until that, you know, really the 3rd drive, you saw us get into a rhythm, right? You saw us, you know, start to kind of get in and out of things. Sat, you know, was kind of calling some tempo plays. Unfortunately, we false started, didn't get the ball in the end zone. But Heinrich can help us in a lot of different ways. So, you know, he's the backup quarterback, but he's also a guy that's going to help us, you know, play some other positions. He can catch it. He knows every position because he is the quarterback. So hopefully he can help us a lot as we move forward.
What did you see in Javen? He had previously played nickel. You guys have kind of moved him inside. What do you like about his game, and what did you see in him that gave you so much trust that he could play that many snaps?
He's practiced really well, you know, because he didn't do anything in the spring. You know, his father was here, you know, obviously former Husker legend was here the one day and was talking about, like, you know, he was kind of laughing, like, he thinks he's a corner, coach, move him inside, you know, and Javen bought into it. We said right before the spring, hey, Javen, we're going to play you, because he was able to do some things at the end of spring. Javen, we're going to move you in and have you play backer, and he was all for it, which was a great step. So, I mean, I can tell you every NFL scout that comes here, they all kind of sit there and say, okay, coach, tell me who 33 is, because he's big, fast, rangy, explosive. But he's had to learn how to play, right? He's had to learn how to play the game, how to learn how to play the different things that that you see at that position. So, but to have a guy with that speed playing linebacker is awesome. But he's got a tenacity and a physicality that I like. He's got a great personality, and he was another guy that was excellent on special teams.
Matt, you guys got the big noon game on Fox this week, and so probably the big storyline is going to be about the compare and contrast of how you're going about trying to build this thing and how Sanders is trying to build his thing out of Colorado. You call yourself an incrementalist, guys, and you've spoken about kind of what your methodology is for building a program, but I guess what's kind of your compare contrast if you were to look at both programs and how they're going about it?
Yeah, I'm sorry to do this to you. I respectfully am not going to, I can't talk about anybody else. For me, if guys in the portal that we have a relationship with, we have respect for, or we know, or something, they fit us, obviously we'll take some of those guys. We're going to try to recruit high schools as much as possible, specifically local guys. It's always taken me a couple of years to get the program up and running, and usually I feel like when it's done, we got to Temple, we lost the championship game, we won it the next year. They won for a couple of years after that with a new coach. I went to Baylor. We lost the championship game in year 3. COVID here. Year 4, those same kids, won the Big 12, went to the Sugar Bowl. So I only know how to kind of do it one way. The rules are a little different now, but I respect anybody that's just trying to figure out how to win. So there's different ways of doing it. So, however Coach Sanders is doing it, however Luke Fickell's doing it, however everybody's doing it, it's not really for me to say. For me, it's just, hey, this is how we're doing it, and this recruiting class that we have right now to us is, like as I said last week, is a really big one for us as we move forward. But obviously, they're going to be a ranked team, so what they're doing is working.
It was a first week of the new clock timing rules. Do you think that impacted maybe the tempo of the game or the number of total plays you could run?
Yeah, kind of. I was starting to say that, and I kind of I forgot to say it, but like that first drive, and then that just, only having 3 drives in the first half, you could kind of feel a little bit of that. That won't really be a factor this week because I think they're going to snap the ball at, within 8-10 seconds of what we do. I used to go at Baylor. I used to go against Cliff Kingsbury and those guys, so have some experience with guys who like to go this fast. It's a great way to play football. So the clock rules last week, you could definitely feel them, right? Just how short the first half was, and it took us a little time, unfortunately, to get in rhythm.
What do you? How's Tommy Hill practice? Does he split time between offense and defense?
Yeah, like last week, he was on defense, right? Because he was coming off that injury, so he was on defense and had a couple plays on offense. We really knew that shot that we took to him, we knew that he would get open in that formation. We knew he would run by the guy. We just knew it was going to be there, and it was. We just weren't able to quite connect on it. So that was just kind of a one-off thing. He had another play that we had for him that we were going to have up that we didn't hit. But I think as we move forward, seeing the kind of shape that Tommy's in and the mental. He's a really smart football player, and his mental toughness I really like where he's at. So, last night he's asking me like what he can do on offense. So, it'll remain to be seen as they game plan today. But maybe he'll have some other roles on offense. I also like when you go back and watch him play offense last year. He's one of the best blockers. He came in and he was blocking the heck out of people. You have to be careful now what you're allowed to do, but he's kind of blocking the way the old Husker wide receivers block. So I'd love to utilize him in the blocking game as well.
How do you get Billy Kemp and Thomas Fagoni more involved? As see both guys didn't have a catch, and I'm sure you would like to see those guys more involved in the offense.
Yeah, I was disappointed, especially for Billy. Right, I think of the 60 plays we called, 9 he was the first guy in the progression, but some of them either they took that away or there was pressure or something like that. So, you called a play for Thomas down in the goal line. Thought it was going to be a touchdown. It just, kind of got banged by the guy and wasn't open. So, really, Billy, we have to get going. We have to find a way to get him involved because he's too good of a player, too competitive of a guy. Thomas as well. Again, talk about things we want to improve upon. Just I think the overall passing game this week, for us to have a chance versus a team that can score like this, we're going to have to make some more plays. So, we got through the first week. We identified, hey, we need to improve this. Hopefully we can make some strides.
After watching the game back, how did the offensive line grade out for you? How important will that unit be, given the tempo that Colorado plays with, in order to try to sustain drives when you have?
Yeah, I thought the offensive line played well. Obviously we had the back-to-back sacks on the one drive that were less about getting beaten, more about a miscommunication, unfortunately, just 2 guys working together. I thought had we not fumbled the ball at 5 minutes, we would have been able to really kind of I felt like we were starting to really start to wear down the opponent. I think with the greatest respect for them, I thought we were going to be able to run the ball out and finish with about 250 yards rushing. When you only have 3 drives in the first half and when you have 4 turnovers, it's really hard to wear down your opponent. So All that being said, you know, it was a good first game. We know where we are. We know what we have to improve upon. Colorado has really good skill up front. Their edge rushers are really twitchy, explosive guys. Just, you know, we tried to slow that down a little bit last week with some quarterback draws. You know, even when they only get 2 or 3 yards, it does slow down the pass rush. And so, you know, we'll have to do a lot of different things versus Colorado because they are so talented up front. Someone else had something. So.
Is that ability to do?
I know that obviously there's some outside sources that always give information on, you know, how our guys played, but from our office, from the Smith Center, our offensive MVPs this past weekend, 2 receivers, Pat Bryant and Casey Washington. I thought those guys, you know, played a lot of good football here, but those 2 guys in particular, obviously the Casey with the big play at the end, with Pat with 2 touchdowns, and then also three guys on offense. We also gave it to Luke. Just thought, you know, a first-time quarterback, you know, starting the game the way he did, the first completion, the second completion, the third completion, his demeanor, some of the things he did with his legs, really the composure to go out on that last series. There was no anxiety in him. It was just kind of let's go out and roll and see what happens. I thought that was really good. Defensively, another great story of a new safety coming in and doing great things. Miles Scott, you know, we moved him in the spring, and a lot has been said about that. I just thought he, you know, handled the moment really well. Obviously, that one play, a huge factor in the game, but he made so many other plays, just really good awareness, common sense, demeanor, cutoff, skill, down in the box to play the quarterback. Just a really, really good opening game for him. I think he's going to be a very good football player here for a long time. And then special teams gave it obviously to Caleb. I thought, you know, a guy that's put in a lot of football, came back for an extra bonus senior year, a guy that, you know, a year ago I talked to him about, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to win all 3 phases. Did a good job with that, but really the last 2 weeks kicked the ball extremely well in practice, both as field goal and kickoff. Did a really nice job, and then to have a game-winning walk-off. Well, there was one more play, I guess, but really just an exceptional game. And then we also gave it to Mac Resetich, kind of a, you know, he only had a limited number of plays, but he had on kickoff coverage, he had 3 plays and 2 tackles, right? So, like, that batting percentage speaks very well. Another good example, I think, young talent, you know, Mac, if I'm not mistaken, he was going to play junior college baseball before we offered the opportunity to come and play football, and has proven to be a very dynamic player, a lot of speed, a lot of ability, best hairstyle by far in the current era that we live in, and just a fun kid in the program. So our look team guys, defensive look going against our offense, Mason Moragan, who actually traveled with us, who was on the verge of playing, has been super impressive in camp. We actually recruited him as a defensive end, and we're playing him as an outside backer, just really rangy, long, athletic, does exactly what we ask him to do, really enjoys the game, super excited about where he is, and could play for us this week as well. Our offensive look, our 2 quarterbacks that gave us looks all camp, Cal Swanson and Jacob Huber, those 2 guys really did a good job of impersonating number 7, but 7 did a pretty good job impersonating himself on Saturday, as we all know. But those guys really gave us a look through camp. And then our special teams look team guy, Mike Manning, just a guy that just continues to be super impressive every day in our practice. He played for us, or my guess is he'll play for us again this year. A couple things on injuries. Guys injured in the game. T. Strain has got to pass concussion protocol, but you know, is in that path. He definitely is progressing in the right direction. Isaiah Adams is all the X-rays, MRIs were negative, and really like the progress he's made in the last 24 hours. Zy Chrysler just had a couple guys had cramping issues. Zy was one. There was also Xavier Scott, Kanena Odalaga, and Josh Geske did. You know, those guys all had some cramping that took place, so they'll return. We just got to make sure that this week is going to be even hotter than it was before. So. Got some encouraging news from Matt Bailey. He had a second wave of tests, and all very, very positive, so he's progressing even further this week than we had hoped, so really excited about him. If not this week, next week, I think we feel pretty good about. And then, you know, the other guy, Zeke Holmes, we're moving him through fall camp. He's come back off the ACL, had some complications that just, you know, were a lot of different things, had a back, had another knee that were just minor issues, but compounded. So we kind of just took a couple-week window to set him down and kind of let him rehab and focus. So we did that. We turned the page quickly on Sunday. We came in the building as coaches, graded it, brought our players in late afternoon, did a good about 90-minute film session on Toledo. A lot of really, you know, I kind of I don't know how many times I said this through phone calls or texts, people reaching out to me. You know, obviously gave a lot of credit to Toledo after the game, and that still holds true today. But there were enough things for us, you know, on all three phases of the game that let us win the game, but a lot of things that we can go correct. I think, you know, in my 30 years in coaching, 15 years as a head coach, the best environment for a Sunday or the day after a game is to have a game that you win, but do enough things that you need to correct so they have a great frame of mind. And I thought our guys really bought into that, had a lot of individual today with no class, right? We've been able to have some guys through the building, brought some guys in. Hey, this is where I think you are. This is where I think you can go. Just a lot of really good conversations. I think for us, a lot of people always talk about the growth from game 1 to game 2 with players. I think it can really happen for coaches that haven't worked together. So to have the 4 new coaches play the way they did, I told Dish to have a field goal game-winning execution as a first-year special teams coordinator was pretty cool. I thought we handled that moment very well. So I thought Dish and what we brought him here to do as tight ends, Tip played really well. Also on the offensive side of the ball, you know, Thad Ward, 2 running backs come in and do what we did, but also just a lot of other things that he's done in the building, jumped out before that game, and couldn't be more excited about those 2 guys. Charlie Bullen, our outside linebacker play, the 3 guys that played the most amount of reps were pretty impressive. Alec Bryan played his most complete, really good game overall. Seth and Gabe continued to be pretty impressive and like where they're at. And so he had a tremendous, and then Antonio Fanelis, we were thin a little bit at corner, especially when T. Strain went down. I thought he handled the moment, moved guys around, and did a really good job. Aaron in his first role, obviously he had the bowl game, but this is his first opener as a D coordinator. I thought he really adjusted and handled the second half very well. Overall, to come into a halftime where we had 9 penalties for 90 yards and only have 1 in the second half, I think they hurt us. I know I said some things, I know others did as well, so that part was really encouraging. And then just the way we started the game offensively and the way we ended it offensively speaks volumes of where I think that unit can go. And defense, a lot of the things we did were self-inflicted. I mean, they were a very good team and a lot of talent, but excited where they can go. So we turned the page and jumped into our Kansas prep. Lance and I have known each other a long time. A lot of you really know that story. He first started off in Wisconsin at a Division III level, and you know, everywhere Lance has gone, they've always won. And it's just super important to realize, like, he is a solid fundamental coach, offense, defense, special teams. Has surrounded himself with coaches that have been with him a long time. They believe in their system. They believe in what they do, and it's proven to be successful everywhere he's been. So a tremendous challenge on Friday. Super excited to get there and see where we're at, and you know, be a part of one of our things we've talked to our players about is just embrace the whole travel experience from beginning to end, right? So we're going to go on the road the first time together, 74 players, a group of coaches and support staff. We'll fly over to Lawrence. I'm sure they'll have a great crowd. I know it's something that they've been aiming towards and talking about for a long time, so we're excited about the opportunity.
What did you see from the rushing defense on the game film, and maybe some things you'd like to get cleaned up before Friday night?
Yeah, I think overall in defense, like I said a minute ago, there was definitely enough things that we did well to win the game, but things we got to do better. They have a little bit different approach. Their quarterback obviously accounted for a large amount of their rushing runs. He had 20 runs on the day. I think about 15 of those were self-designed runs that gave him the ball and featured it. So anytime that you have a game, whether success or failure, you got to learn from it equally, and I think our guys will do that.
Put a couple people in new spots or new faces on the offensive line. What did you see from that group, and what's kind of next for them?
This past weekend? Yeah. You know, Geske started at guard, took reps at tackle. It was his first start. I think he would be the first to tell you that, you know, obviously we got through the game and were able to win it, but I know he wants to get better. At right tackle, Zai had started for the first time at right tackle, played, you know, obviously guard for us last year and an all Big Ten player, but he'd really been limited on amount of practice time, and I think that showed in the game. So those 2 guys in particular, I think Isaiah and Julian probably played about where we thought they were, and I think Josh Kreutz really handled the game, the composure, the moments he was in, had no issues with operations or snaps or anything. So he continues to be a very impressive player, and I think a guy that will continue to move forward. We also got Jordan Slaughter in there. I think Jordan just continues to be very impressive, the amount of roles that he fills, snapping the ball better than ever. So another guy for us, a valuable reps at center. And then 2 guys, Zach Barliv on our Hunter Whiteneck, and Brandon Henderson got in the game as well in limited capacities. But to have those guys continue to come along this week will be a big part.
Is there anything you can take from
this past Saturday with Finn that you can translate to what you're going to see quarterback-wise with whoever they put out there?
Yeah, well, Finn is, really in my 3 years of here, like I literally said this in January when we started watching film from a year ago, like probably one of the more dynamic, explosive playmakers that we've ever faced at the quarterback position, regardless of who we were seeing or what time of the season. He's just a very dynamic player. Really had a great amount of respect going into the game, probably even bigger respect on the back end. I grabbed him after the game and just said, hey, go win them all, because I think they with his skill set and what they have and the way they're coached, that's a very real thing for them to do. I think his skill set is unique to him, but there will be things that, this week, depending on who we see at quarterback, I just know their quarterback and the way he moves, whichever quarterback they play or roll with, the ability for them to run and create plays with their athleticism is real with all of them. So there'll be a little bit of carryover, probably not the same, but some.
What's the conversations like with penalties, especially those two that changed the game with the taunting and then the roughing the passer?
Yeah. Well, some conversations can't be repeated, right? Especially on TV. But I would say that in general, I think they hurt us, right? There was 9 penalties in the first half and 1 in the second half. I believe at halftime they had 4 penalties for 20 yards, and we had 9 for 90, and 4 defensive penalties, indirectly or directly resulted in 20 points that were scored. So one of the things I talk, preach, and harp on relentlessly is more games are lost than won, and those come from penalties, turnovers, and mental errors. And I think our guys hear us, and they hurt us at half, right? That's a good thing. If it was the other way or if it was balanced, you would be concerned. But I think a little bit of anytime you're in that first game, and then the way those fouls occurred, right? A couple of them were post snap, but a lot of them are great learning experiences for not just the guys that committed them, but other guys as well.
Last year you went on the road, went at some tough places.
Mm-hmm.
So how much does that carry over this year going forward?
I would say Kansas has targeted this game for a long time, right? So they had their game originally scheduled for Thursday against Missouri State. When we agreed to play this game on Friday, they moved their game to Friday, so it's not as big a break, or they didn't gain 2 days of advantage of prep for us, right? So I know they got new jerseys, from 1941 that they're going to debut. So there's a lot of thought that has gone into this game, and I think that's awesome. I think that's what college football is all about. And I think that, for our guys, one of the things we learned that first year going to Penn State, like we went into an environment with 110,000. We knew that we were going to be the only ones there cheering for Illinois. So other than a few other diehards, but I think our guys in particular, with the attitude that we preach, the mentality of being an underdog with a chip on your shoulder, this actually plays into our. And I've been told too that we are the underdog. So I think there's a lot of different things that we can play to that we really embrace.
Go ahead. The delay of game penalty. Just curious as to I saw you had a conversation with the official about this. When they make a change, you can make a defensive change.
Yeah.
Your guy was coming off and they snapped, or at least it's going to be. What are the rules on what are the officials guide you?
Yeah, so there's a variety of different ways. The standard way is like when an offense is on the field and one of their guys that's a normal substitution. You'll see the white hat, what we call the cross, right? So he'll go like this, and then once he turns and faces our sideline, we have 3 seconds to initiate a substitution. Toledo, as most teams, right, they have a planned rotation that I think their coaches are designed to do, right? Like they know, I'm going to get this guy out. Like we have 3 receivers that, in my opinion, are playing as good a football as I've ever played since I've been here with those 3 guys, Isaiah Williams, Casey Washington, and Pat Bryant. When we sub, we really don't want to bring all 3 of those guys out, so we'll periodically sub, hey, first chance we can, let's get Casey out. Let's get Pat out next play. So that happened a lot of times on Saturday where a wide receiver go 1 for 1, and then the OC or the person that's calling the plays would then a couple seconds later send in a tight end for a wideout, and they literally would go from what we call 11 personnel to 12 personnel. Well, when that happens, then we're entitled to sub again. And sometimes because the white hat might be facing us, he doesn't see the initial second substitution. I see it, right? So we sub, and that was the moment of Jesus we had a conversation about, right? Because I knew that we had a second sub, and we should be entitled to do that. So a lot of times, just from game 1 to game 2, a lot of people get better, and I think that's for us. We really take a lot of preparation to make that right, and it's something that we put an emphasis on, and it's important to us. The other thing that comes a factor, they had a couple delay of games because they couldn't get snapped by the time we subbed, and obviously that's something that's a big part of the game.
Yeah, that was the question. Sorry, just
Yeah.
to clarify. When he,
Yeah, so when they subbed, we put Denzel back. We were trying to put another player back out there, and they didn't allow.
you have a certain amount of time. So say you're replacing the guy on the far end,
Mhm.
left outside linebacker. He has to get off. Like, is there hey, he's got 7 seconds, or they're snapping? Like, how do the officials handle that?
Yeah, I think that as long as you're diligent in your process, right? And again, it's Robert, as a fellow big man, I hope you appreciate, right? Like, some people can move faster than others, right? So I just said, if we're going to sub in a DB, he's going to move at a different place than a guy, especially like it's. I have fun with it. I joke with it, and I had tried to make light of it, right? These guys weigh 320 pounds. It's the fourth quarter, and it's their 72nd snap. They're not going to move the same way they did on their 22nd snap in the middle of the second quarter, right? And it's just common sense, but it's a reality of it. So, again, as long as we all get better, like everybody always says, how do you define success? I think as a whole, we all just need to get better, everybody involved in game day, and I think that will be a point of emphasis for me. And the good news is we have a Big Ten crew again. So we were a home game. Obviously, had a Big Ten crew, but this road game, we get a Big Ten crew going to Kansas as well.
Coach Lance Leopold seems to have turned things around in just a few short seasons there. From your perspective, what's kind of been the key for him, and what's the identity that he's kind of established there?
I don't. Last thing I'm going to do is speak for Lance. Lance, I think the wins speak for itself. Obviously, last year they started off 5-0, right? And they have a player that's voted on before the season as the Big 12 Player of the Year, right? Offensively, it's very apparent that his coaching style, philosophy, overall program philosophy has continued to show up more and more every year. And I got to believe this year will be another step in that same direction. Lance and I both saw each other at the draft, right? In Kansas City, like they had a player there, we had a player there, and for me, like I gravitate. Lance and I have always known each other from the time he spent as a head coach there, but like I just naturally like people that are at programs maybe that maybe haven't been the blue bloods, right? I know they're a blue blood in basketball, right, but not in football, I would think. And what he's done is just speaks volumes about what an effect a head coach can have with the people he brings in, the players he brings in, the people that they're around. And I'll give a lot of credit to the people that make those hires, right? Like I think in college football, you saw it this weekend. There's a lot of probably games that went the way you thought they were going to go, but then sometimes things don't go as planned. You see head coaches make comments, and sometimes they don't happen the way people foresee them to be. I've never really been at a program that the outside world just taps you on the head and said you're going to be good, right? So it's fun for guys that are in positions like what we took over here in Illinois, that were in a place that you think you can have success, and when you build it and you see it come to life, it's really a lot of great respect, and that's what I see with Lance.
Looking at a game like that.
All right, good afternoon. Just want to start by saying obviously very disappointed in Saturday in regards to the outcome. We had one goal on game day, and that is to win, and we're not able to do that. So obviously had a chance to watch the film, much to teach off of and grow from in all three phases. But just bottom line is that now we had a chance to play and see a lot of our new faces and how they responded to a high-level opponent. And now I get a chance to evaluate that and build off the things that we did well and correct the things that we made mistakes on and continue to go forward. Want to recognize some players that did a great job giving us a great look. Our scout team players of the week from this past week against preparing for Ohio State. Connor Hull on defense and Jeff Utzinger, and then Brock Lowry and Jack Greer on offense, and then Declan McMahon on special teams. So appreciate those guys and their effort. Got a lot of guys each week that allow us to get ready each week, and it's very, very critical in our process. So excited about welcoming Indiana State to Memorial Stadium on Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff, and have a special relationship with Kurt Mallory and obviously his entire family. But just a lot of respect for him, and I think we're going to have some former players from Coach Mallory's era be here for a reunion, and Ellie's going to be back as well. So she was jokingly saying didn't know what colors to wear, and obviously she needs to wear blue to support her son. It says blood is thicker than water. So, but appreciate that family. Obviously, very, very important to our program, and just a lot of respect for them. So, appreciate that, and look forward to having them here. Obviously, they're going to come here hungry, ready to compete and play, and they'll play their very, very best. So, need a very important week of preparation, shorter week. I already had our Tuesday practice today on a Monday, and to be able to accelerate the week and get ready for an early kickoff. Questions?
I swear I'm not trying to rile you up, but the topic of Friday games, you've played a couple of them. You've always made your feelings clear. I recognize there's an extent to which this stuff is just marching orders with the media rights deals and things like that. But just, I guess, do you ever give that feedback to the conference of basically just your opinion, your position on playing on Fridays?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty consistent, from the very beginning. And, there's no question that, I'm not going to, keep saying it over and over again, but I just, we can't have any recruits at the game. They're all playing, and their families are all at their sons' games like they should be and all that. So I'm a 15-year high school coach and have a lot of respect for what they do and how that night is special. So, yeah, whenever I'm asked, I don't sit there and bring it up every meeting, but and I know everybody has different opinions and there's different reasons, and I don't sit in their seat. I don't make those decisions, but I do feel like I've been consistent. I'm not trying to, just keep bringing it up. I just think it's important, and I understand the whole dynamics of it all with different variables with media and everything. So, but there's certain things that, if anybody wants to know my opinion, they know what it is.
With Aaron Casey, when you watched the film, what impressed you kind of the most about his game? He seemed to be really playing the run well. Did you kind of feel he was the best defender on the field on Saturday?
Yeah, I think he was. He just played with a lot of confidence. He's very decisive in his run fits. Just played fast, played physical. Got guys on the ground, 2 elite running backs that very, very talented players, So just like I said, the biggest thing was just the decisiveness in his fits. And I thought, Jacob, JMF played really well too, right next to him. So it's encouraging. I always have said if you want to have great defense, you got to have great linebacker play. So he definitely was, our best player on that day. And I expect him to continue to grow and keep improving and getting better, So, but he's the leader of our defense, and that's, as we tell with our linebackers, that leadership is both in verbal leadership and production. That's how you play linebacker, and so he did both, which is great.
Hey, Coach. Sitting up in the press box, the offensive line looked markedly improved from our vantage point. I'm curious, from a coach's viewpoint, especially after watching the film, breaking it down, what did you see, and what was your opinion of their play?
Yeah, I've been asked about that a lot leading up to, the first game, and I felt like that we were a lot better up front from, when you go through spring football and obviously everything you do during fall camp when you have pads on. And next test was to see how you do, in a game, but then obviously against, Ohio State, a team that's strong on both line of scrimmages traditionally. So I felt like we got movement. I felt like the guys were targeting their guys accurately throughout the game, and I thought they did a lot of positive things. We had 2 hits on the quarterback. We gave up 1 sack, we did not sustain our blocks to the level that we know we have to moving forward. So there's the strain to finish, to me, is the next component of that. But step 1 is targeting the right guys, getting on the right people, and creating movement. So to me, definitely much to build off of. So yes, was encouraged by that. Trying to get even more guys ready to play. The course of a season, guys get dinged up, and to be able to mix and match and put our best 5 out there. So as we kind of made some adjustments, and we have some flexibility to move guys in and out a little bit, which is good. And but Coach Bostad's done a really good job with that group, and the expectations we just keep getting better every week.
Yeah, it looked like Jameer Johnson got a little bit banged up in the second half. I guess what is he dealing with and how's he doing injury-wise? And I guess overall, I know you said some of it was just cramping, but how do you feel like you got out of week one in terms of health?
Yeah, we had a couple guys cramping, which is, obviously a weekly situation. I think as the weather unfolds this week, it's going to be a high of 76 on game day. So we'll be up 10 degrees cooler than it was this past Saturday. So don't expect that to be a variable for our guys moving forward. And then, the way we have the availability report now, so guys will be listed on that each week. So really probably not going to discuss a lot about injuries. We'll have that put out 2 hours before kickoff and let that kind of handle that situation.
With the defensive line being so impactful on Saturday, how would you kind of evaluate their performance, especially against Ohio State's offensive line?
Yeah, I tell you, I was encouraged. I expected them to play well, but you don't know. And I thought Andre Carter was extremely disruptive. He'll only get better as he learns our system more and continues to trust, playing within it and the different things we have him do. And I thought Philip Bleedy was very disruptive as well, although he went the wrong direction a few times on some movements, and that jacks you up, leaves a gap. But and I think even LD Cox played his best football, since he's been here, and you got Marcus Burris, who's another guy that's new that I expect to just keep getting better and better. I thought Nick James, one of our young redshirt freshmen, he shows tremendous promise. He's extremely explosive, a little undersized, but what he makes, he really lacks in size. He makes for in quickness and speed and athleticism, and then P.J. as well. And there's a lot more competition in there, a lot of guys that rotate in, want to get Vincent Steed more involved. I think he's a guy that I know can help us and give us a chance there, and that'll be the case moving forward. And then you take, Linnell Carr, and I thought he played real physical, not a big guy, but very athletic. And Miles Jackson was just, as he always is, he's just steady, and then you got also mix in there, Anthony Jones at the bowl spot, and he also plays the outside backer against heavier personnel. So was encouraged by our D-line. I thought we had a couple mistakes in some key situations defensively that was frustrating because I felt like we should have held them to even less points had we done a couple things that, a couple picks that we had chances to get our hands on that we didn't, which we ended up getting 2 field goals, so that's 6 points there, and we got to make those plays. You play a team like this, every time you get 2 hands on the ball, you got to pick it off. So, just thought that the D-line set the tone, and it was a big area of focus for us to go out and get guys that could help us right away, and those 6 guys that we brought here, they all played, and I thought they played well.
Coach, you mentioned after the game that you felt that you were a little bit conservative offensively in the second half. When you're seeing that on the sidelines in real time, what's that conversation with Walt like? Do you say, hey, come on, we got to start pressing the gas, or how does that play out?
Yeah, no, I think it's like anything else. You see what you see, and feel free to make my comments. But there's also a lot of layers to it. The one frustrating thing that kind of stuck out to me that really put our offense in a bad spot. We had 4 crucial penalties that caused us to call. We started 4 drives inside the 20, 3 inside the 10, which is tough. It affects play calling. It affects psyche. All you got to do is just look at the stats. When you have to start that far down inside your own territory, it's very difficult against anybody to move the ball and score points, let alone against this team. So I think that put us in a negative spot. It does affect you. You're trying not to put your young quarterbacks in a, bad situation to make a big mistake, a catastrophic mistake. You throw a pick six in that situation where you turn the ball over and it can snowball on you. And I also felt like, and this is just, statistically it's true, we did not do well on first downs, which put us in too many 3rd and longs, which once again, that's the negative. That's kind of the one thing you don't want. There's about 3 teams in this league where you say, you know what, we got to stay out of 3rd and longs as much as possible. You're going to have a tough day. And they're one of those 3. And so just because of what they can bring, their speed, their size, their mass on the edge, and they have 2 of the best defensive ends in the country and some inside guys that are extremely explosive. So that puts a lot of pressure on your offense. So that definitely probably played a role as well. So, but we're just going to grow with our guys. We got to keep growing with them each week, and you'll see that. We'll see that. And I think, there's no doubt. I mean, we didn't play good enough on offense to win. You got to score touchdowns. I know that. We all know that. So, but I do think when you think about up front, which is where it starts, and we got the skill around them, we just got to keep growing it and get these young quarterbacks developed, and the best way to do it is to play, and that's what they got a chance to do. And we didn't have play on either one, but it ended up being pretty balanced, not necessarily by design, but just by the way it worked out. But we wanted them both to play, and they did. And Tatum's going to start this week, like I said, after the game, and they're both going to play this week, and we'll have a chance to evaluate it and make a decision moving forward.
Tom, beyond the defensive line, how would you assess the way the other transfers played?
Yeah, I was encouraged by our secondary. Nick Toomer stuck out to me, number 15, and just a guy that, man, I wanted him so bad the first time. We recruited him so hard. He comes from a great family and just great people, and so glad he's here. Such an awesome person. He's long, he's athletic, he can tackle. I thought he did a really good job. I think that, anytime you have that kind of length at corner, Jameer Johnson did some good things, like his ability. Kobe Minor, same thing. He had missed a little bit last couple of weeks, so he's kind of get back into the flow. I think he can continue to grow and get better, but I think he stuck out to me as well. And I know from a transfer perspective, Christian Turner shows burst. We know he had that, and then just got to continue to just fine-tune our offense in that regard. And I thought E.J. Williams, as a transfer, DQ, those guys can make plays for us. So I just like the guys that we have. I think that we've added some playmakers to our team, and just got to keep growing together each and every week. But those are the additional guys besides the D-line to me that stuck out.
All right. Certainly disappointed with yesterday's result. Have an opportunity to go back and look at the film. There's some positive things to build off of. We're gonna build off of those things. Plenty to identify in terms of a lot of work to be done in all three phases of the game. Got to start faster on defense. 2 16-play drives to open the game gives no one an opportunity to get into rhythm, whether that be us on defense creating momentum or giving our offense an opportunity to catch rhythm in the early stages of the game. And, offensively, opportunity for us to identify where we need to improve and get much better. But there were plays out there, plenty of missed opportunities. There's going to be an opportunity for our team to learn from yesterday, this afternoon, and then very quickly move on to UTEP. The preparation for UTEP has already started. Meetings today will probably be 30% review of Rutgers and 70% focus on capitalizing on opportunity to prepare for UTEP on a short week.
Most sports books are currently carrying y'all as an underdog by a few points to UTEP. It's really projected to be one of your more winnable games this season. What's your reaction to potentially going in as an underdog in week 2?
Yeah, I've never paid attention to lines, never will. I think this group is at its best when it's an underdog, so that sits just fine with me.
Coach, just talking about yesterday, I think you guys called the fake punt when you were down 14. Could you just kind of walk us through what that communication looked like with the whole staff, especially Coach Jenick, and why you guys felt like that was the right decision to make?
Yeah, no, we had talked about that, for multiple weeks now, and knew that Rutgers was a heavy pressure team, was going to find ways to come after multiple punts throughout the day. And we're very calculated in terms of the specific scenario where we thought that might be a good opportunity for us to take. Felt really good about where we were at from an execution standpoint with that look and that fake, and the guys that were executing on it. There's a point in the game where we needed to find a way to build some momentum, and we were down 14-0 at the time. Felt really good about the communication that went on the sideline leading up to the decision to call it in. The mechanics from that team were exactly what we wanted them to be. And, going back and evaluating it, would have loved to have seen, Rod push it a couple more yards vertical on the route. The kid from Rutgers, to his credit, made a great play. Renner's execution, Rod's execution, credit them. They didn't blink. Rod makes a nice catch. In a perfect world, we would have had it dialed up on, a 4th and 6, but feel again we didn't go out to New Jersey just to play to stay in the game. We went out to New Jersey to win a football game, and felt like that call was complete embodiment of that. We needed to find a way to flip the momentum, and the reason for that call was very much to do with that.
Is there an injury update on Matt Lawson, and what does the depth chart at defensive tackle look like right now? Have you given any thought to mixing in the two freshmen?
There's no update right now, and haven't gotten that far. I do feel good about the D-line depth in that room right now. I think that's something that has Coach Smith in that room has done a great job of building that up over the course of fall camp.
And Coach, looking at the offensive line, just what did you see from their standpoint? Obviously, a group that several players making kind of their inaugural starts in their careers, and a group that seemed to surrender pressure at times. But did you think they got better as the game went along, or just kind of always your read from there?
Yeah, no, there's plenty to look at in terms of things that are positive to build off of, but that group knows that we need to improve. We need to do a better job of protecting our quarterback. We need to do a better job of establishing the run game, and that's something that they recognize as well. There's plenty to take from as positives, and we're gonna take those positives. We're gonna identify where we need to get better, and we're gonna be right back at it this afternoon preparing for UTEP.
Bret was your starter for Rutgers, and Brennan Sullivan came in late to score a touchdown on that final drive. How much stock do you put into a drive that late in the game, and have you considered splitting possessions for UTEP or down the road?
Ben will be our starter for UTEP. Proud of the way Sully came in. You take stock in everything. I mean, everything's being evaluated, but no, Ben knows he needs to play better. We know we need to find ways to give him and the rest of the offense to more opportunities to create rhythm, and that comes with getting off the field on 3rd down and 4th down defensively. But no, everything's being evaluated. Proud of the way that Sully handled himself, and proud of the way that our offense closed out the game.
And Coach, it seemed like in the second half of the game, you guys kind of used more schematic blitzes, especially like sending corners off the line of scrimmage. Was that intentional because of the lack of pressure the defensive line was getting, and do you kind of envision doing more of that going forward?
A lot of those pressures were very calculated in terms of attacking the run game, and knowing that based on the situation, we had to find ways to get them behind the sticks. But none of the things that you saw in the second half were strong deviations from the game plan. There were certainly adjustments that were happening throughout the game, not just at halftime. It was a chess match throughout the game, whether that be in series, timeout, in between series, but all things that are within the framework of our defensive structure and the concepts that we teach. But we certainly knew that we had to pick our moments to be aggressive and find ways to get them behind the chains, because we needed to get this stinking ball back to our offense.
Devin Turner made a huge impact against Rutgers as just a sophomore. What does it mean to you as a coach to see him continue to contribute at such a young age, or early on in his career?
No, it's really exciting. I think the thing that's really exciting is he's showing up, he's flashing, and he'll be the first one to tell you he's still got so much room for an improvement. He's got an opportunity earlier in the game to finish on a ball, and he wants that opportunity back. He wants that INT. There's some things that he needs to continue to improve on in terms of his consistency. If he was sitting with us right now, I'd be telling him the same thing. He knows that, he understands that. Coach McPherson does a great job of pushing him, and we will continue to do that. But don't let my honesty, hide the fact that we're certainly very excited about his growth here over the course of spring, fall camp, into the beginning of the season, and know that Devin will be a critical piece of our defense, moving forward.
And it was the first game for you as a head coach and your entire new staff. What were the mechanics kind of looking like? If you guys wanted to go for it on 4th down, what did that communication entail? And especially, how did kind of Coach Holtz and Coach Vogelak play a role in that?
Yeah, no, in terms of those decision makings, it's it's a lot of conversation. Good conversation on game day stems from preparation prior to game day. There was conversations that were had leading into game day of what the mechanics of that would look like. Certainly communication with Coach Bajakian, communication, with Coach Holtz at time in between series, and then, finding a really good balance of trusting the wisdom that exists on this staff while also making decisions based on, my sense of where the game's at, that I feel are in the team's best interest.
Now that you have a game under your belt, how would you define Coach Holtz and Coach Vogelak's roles?
Coach Vokalek, incredibly involved in everything that's going on within the defense, on the defense side of the ball, someone that, along with the rest of the defensive staff that I'm leaning on for perspective and feedback on things that are going on with the game. DJ's certainly taking on a role in terms of game planning from a standpoint of just the organization of everything, while I'm wearing two hats right now. We got great minds in that defensive room that are taking on heavier loads than they typically would be, just because of the time and then the way that it's split, and DJ's doing a great job of helping me organize all that. When it comes to Coach Holtz, it's an extra eye for the offense. It's an extra eye for the defense in terms of him being able to see what's going on and give information back to coaches, most importantly myself. And then, Coach Holtz being over a 20-year vet as a head coach, it's even conversations, on the plane ride back, as we get off the plane. I mean, just he's won big games, he's lost big games, he's dealt with a lot of different things. Sitting in that head coach's chair, it's someone that can provide me with a lot of perspective. I think those that know me well understand that I'm incredibly self-critical, and after a loss like yesterday, I'm gonna have a tendency to try and shoulder, as much burden as I possibly can. And a guy like Coach Holtz, hey, Dave, we're going to be all right. There's plenty of positives to take from this too, So, both DJ and Coach Holtz have been just great resources to an already a staff that I certainly appreciate in terms of the way that they've continued to coach and prepare.
You guys have now lost 12 straight games as a program, not since week 1 of last year as this team won a game. Just kind of, what would you say your mentality is to instill confidence in this group and to actually go out and find a way to win?
Yeah, we just, at the end of the day, we have to. There's no excuses. There's no explanations. What solutions are we finding to play winning football? And the easy thing to fall back on going into yesterday was, hey, this is a new team. Talk about fall camp. Well, we had an opportunity to really find out where we're at, both good and bad, evaluate it, move forward, and how do we find a way to play winning football against UTEP. And the thing that I can control day in and day out is the energy, enthusiasm that I bring to the building. Meet these guys where they're at and speak truth into them. And what I mean by speaking truth into them is we have plenty of talent. We have a team that can win a bunch of football games this year. Speaking truth into them is making sure they understand that they know that I believe in them. They got a bunch of other people that believe in them, and momentum's a powerful thing. It's time to get the momentum going in the right direction, and then let that thing roll downhill. And again, that starts with, like I told them in the locker, the team in the locker room last night. We'll have a quick evaluation of the Rutgers film here this afternoon, but a majority of what we're doing today is focused on UTEP. How do we find a way to beat UTEP on Saturday?
Cam Porter only had 6 carries yesterday. How are you going to work to get him more involved this weekend against UTEP?
We're going to get off the field on 3rd and 4th down on defense and find ways to get the ball back to our offense so that we have more opportunities on offense, and we're going to find a way to get up, right, so that we can get our running backs more touches. It's a lot easier to feel comfortable running the football on a consistent basis when you're not down 2 scores in the first quarter or in the first half.
Looking at the big picture, Ben's a 6-year grad transfer, Brennan's a junior. If the team continues to struggle, would you consider working Sully in more to give him more experience to help the program down the line, or are you going to stick with Ben?
Ben Bryant is our starter for UTEP, and we plan on Ben being our starter moving forward. We evaluate everything at all positions, but we're not going to get in this conversation of, we don't want anyone playing with this mentality that they're looking over the shoulder. We want Ben to go out there and rip it with a bunch of confidence and go help this team win games. And we're going to continue to push Sully and Ryan Helinski and everyone in this program at all positions to say, keep pushing. own your role, but keep pushing. You know, we talk about owning our roles. Well, Brendan Sullivan has owned his role throughout camp and moving forward in the prep for Rutgers. That doesn't mean that Sully has to be satisfied with his role. You know, there's plenty of guys on this roster. You know, Robert Fitzgerald has owned his role, you know, as a backup for our defense and a special teams guy. That doesn't mean that he has to be satisfied with it. We want him to continue to push to find ways to get on the field more often. So Ben's going to be our starter going into UTEP. I know our team will be backing him, and I know that quarterback room's going to continue to push to own their role, but also not be satisfied with the role that they currently have.
We saw yesterday Anto Saka get a chance to be on the field. I think he had 2 pressures in limited action. Is your plan to kind of integrate more of those former top prospects of Northwestern football as the year goes along, like Saka, Reggie Fleur, Mac Uline, to kind of see the talent they have? Yeah, no, I mean the plan is to give the guys opportunity that earn those opportunities, and Anto's done that. He's been, you know, he flashes a ton and needs to continue to, you know, feel really comfortable in all situations within our defense and play with a great deal of consistency. But to his credit, Anto has earned those opportunities. I'm really excited for that young man, and the same applies to everyone within their program. As they earn those opportunities, they're gonna find ways on the field.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be 1-0 in the Nebraska season. We got to get a lot better. Difference between saying we want to be better and then getting better and being better, and that's what this whole week's going to be about. 0-0. We're kind of restarting the whole season, just like we talked about, just like we've always done. Got a heck of an opponent coming in here. Won 9 games last year. Won their bowl game, and I think it's one of the best coached teams in college football that doesn't get talked about enough. Chris Creighton's one of the best coaches, I think, in the country, and what he's done at Eastern Michigan hasn't been done for forever. And we're going to play a really good football team coming in here on Saturday night. So we got a lot of work to do. Obviously have to get better and be better, and that's going to be the focus this week. So I'm sure you have questions, so we'll open up.
When you look at offensive improvement in the run game, what are the key things you're looking for?
You know, it's not just – I think you look at the stats and you go, oh, that's surprising. But when you look at it, we had 3 possessions in the first half. We're preparing for ghosts, right? So it's not like you take the field and you're like, oh, that's what they were going to do after the first play. It's constant. And when there's limited possessions and limited time in the first half, I mean, they changed their front numerous times. They did a lot of things. So you have, 20-some plays maybe. It took the first quarter was 20 minutes long maybe in real time. So you're constantly adapting and changing and making adjustments, but you still don't know what you're going to see. You haven't even thrown all your formations out there yet to really see it. So it's one thing that, we hang our hat on running the football. I mean, that's philosophical. But when we come back in after 3 possessions, they take the opening kickoff, they score a touchdown, we're down 7-3. There weren't many plays in the first half. You need to get some points on the board. And not saying it changed, but throwing it 44 times is probably shocking to a lot of people. That's what was required to win that particular game. And, again, we have to be better in a lot of areas if we're going to throw the ball like that, which, again, there's going to be changes of our offense this year. We all talked about that. But we have to complete more passes. We're going to have to throw it to run it. And there were 3 drops on there and then, 3 missed throws that you sit there and say, okay, that's just normally what we do. Then you're 30 of 44, you're around that 60-some%, and you're like in the, mid 60%. And you're like, okay, I see that, we did what we had to do, but it was a little below that. So we got to be able to improve that. But it's not because what somebody's not doing. If you look back at our few games against Nebraska and how we've been able to beat Nebraska, they're very good up front. They're very big. They're very strong. They're Nebraska. And if you sit there and think, we're just going to pound Nebraska, and just run the ball down their throat, I don't know how much success you're going to have with how big and how deep they are up front. That was at least not knowing what they were going to do. But we want to be better in that area. And, that's something that we keep talking about, being balanced. Playmakers touching the football. And we did what we had to do to win that particular game.
Now that you've had a chance to go back and look at film, PJ, what's your evaluation of the offensive line and the running backs and Zach Evans? What's his status? How is he doing?
Well, he's doing good, but this is all about competition. I don't make the depth charts. The players make the depth charts. I just pick who played best. And just because you did something one year doesn't mean you're going to be there the next year. I mean, you keep adding talent and you got to go out there and perform. We have full, trust in him, and he gets out there and gets his opportunity. Same thing with Darius Taylor. We felt really good with Sean and what he was able to bring that, plus Bryce Williams with the experience, especially not knowing what they were going to do. We felt really good about those two backs who have played a lot of football, who played against Nebraska before in Bryce, and then Sean played a lot of football in the past anyway. So we felt really good about going with those two guys. Offensive line, I thought we did well for what we thought we were going to see, but, we got to keep our quarterback upright. There weren't that many sacks, but, part of it's on the quarterback, part of it's on the O-line, part of it's on the tight ends, protection-wise, staying in the pocket when there's a pocket, not flushing yourself out when you don't need to, and then being able to trust everybody up front that you can stand in there and everybody doing their job up front. I just thought we needed more consistency at a really high level. The efficiency needs to be way more consistent just across the board. And Dave, it doesn't matter which position we're talking about. We all just need to be more efficient and more consistent in everything that we do.
Learn about your team that you didn't know before in the Nebraska game, P.J.?
I don't know if I learned anything new. I knew this team was resilient. We picked this word poise back in January, looking at our schedule, feeling our team for the first month. We're like, all right, there's going to be really, really good moments, and there's going to be some really deep valleys at times, and throughout the entire year. Whether that's injuries, whether that's, opponents, whether that's how you play, whether that's winning, losing, we have no idea, but there's going to be a lot of that. Experience, inexperience, it's how we're going to handle the moments when it's really high and how we're going to handle the moments when it's, we're in a valley. How do we respond to all that stuff? So that word poise fit this team perfectly. And I thought you saw that on Thursday night. They were poised. They never thought they were out of it. Remember, this is a whole team. This is about offense versus defense versus special teams. We're the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And we've said this for a long time. We want to play complementary football. And we're going to need each other to be the best football team we can be. It's not like, hey, we don't care what you do. Just get us the ball back so we score another touchdown. Don't really care what you do over the other side of the ball, or vice versa, or just on special teams. We call games. We do things together collectively, knowing what the strengths of our teams are. And but I learned, the things that we thought. This team's really poised. They have a lot of confidence in themselves. They're never out of it. They've got pretty level heads for as inexperienced as some of them are. And then guys that played a ton of football bring that. I mean, Tyler Nubin in really high moments is talking about how he's going to go get it. He's walking off the sideline saying, I'm going to go pick it off. No, he's said that a lot. He just happened to, Babe Ruth only pointed one time, I think, to the fence. We think, right? Maybe he pointed 100 times and then hit one and everybody covers that one. But Tyler Nubin, that's the type of player he is. And when you start to look at what he learned from Antoine Winfield Jr. as an X factor, Antoine passed that to him and J-How, and then he's going to pass that to the Kerry Browns of the world, to the Coleman Brysons, to the AGs of the world. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's that cultural sustainability over time. So, Joe, long answer to your short question, but I don't know if I learned anything new, but there's going to be high-pressure moments and high-pressure situations, and it's going to come down to our poise.
What has Trayvon Jones brought to the team since he arrived here?
Have you spent time with Trey? You need to. His personality is infectious. He glows, constantly smiling, unbelievable personality. And it's interesting when you bring players over from the transfer portal, you really worry as a coach, how well will they fit the locker room? I mean, you don't get to know them as long as you get to know your high school recruits. And the minute Trey got here, you think Trey was here 5 years. I'm talking like a week into it. And he was already hanging around the Wallies and the Brevins, and they were already connected. And you could say, all right, that guy must be a really good egg because, that group just took him in and they were hanging out. But he's got a lot of confidence in himself. He's a very good athlete. He's very tough. I remember we were in training camp, and it was one of the first days we were in pads and we could actually tackle, and he comes on a corner cat. And I mean, you talk about, I think, our low blocking or low tackling has gotten a lot better. Our submarine tackling, our shoot tackling. And he came in and boom, shot the legs out with power and efficiency and sawed the running back off right then. I'm like, all right, I haven't seen a corner do that in a long time here. Maybe besides Wally. So I was like, he's tough. He has it. And he's a great kid with an infectious personality and loves football. So that's pretty high praise for a young man that just got here. He's got to keep getting better like everybody else. And we're far from being a really good football team right now. But it's fun to be able to have really good kids on your team.
You mentioned the 44 passes. Someone told you, in July, you would throw them many times and never trailed by more than 7 in a game. Would you have been surprised?
With this team, no. I'm not saying that's where you want to live, but if we have to do that all year, we'll have to do that all year. again, we challenged our football team to be better across the board. Special teams, kickoff return, punt return, offense, running the ball, throwing the ball, efficiency, consistency, tackling, explosive plays, defending those. So it wouldn't surprise me with this team. If you would have told me that last year, it would have, because we have way more playmakers than we did. And again, this is, Greg and Matt's first opportunity doing it with the weapons, not knowing what you're actually going to see on defense. You have an idea. You never really know till game one. Now everybody in the country has a little bit of data, and now you can respond to that data. The more data you get, the better you can be, right? But, it wouldn't have surprised me at all, especially playing Nebraska. I feel like we always, at least the last few years, we've had to throw the ball a little bit more, especially late in the game to find a way to win, and that's what we're going to constantly do. Would I have loved to start fast and have 3 touchdowns on 3 drives? Absolutely.
How would you evaluate the play of the linebackers, especially with Cody out?
Yeah, that's part of when we say cultural sustainability. I think when you look back at our linebackers from Blake Cashman to Kamal Martin and what they, Thomas Barber, and what they passed down to the Mariano Sori-Marins and the Jack Gibbons, and then what Jack's passed down to Cody Lindenberg, and what's Cody already still on this team with 3 years left, passing down to the Mavericks, to the Devin Williams, to the Joey Gerlachs, to the Sealigs. You saw a lot of people out there that were prepared for their opportunity. And we got to play better, but you saw a lot of guys prepared and ready to go, and that's what a team does. There's going to be adversity, there's going to be injuries. That's just part of it. It's not, if, it's when. And I thought they've handled that really well.
Did you see him progress as the game went on?
I did. They fly around. One thing I don't worry about with Coach Rossi, coach of linebackers, is how hard they play. Now we got to get better. We got to be more efficient in our tackling, our angles, pressing the hip. We weren't as good as we need to be in some of those areas that kind of got out on us. Too many ankle tackles and diving instead of running through the hip and using our tackling circuit. But, we'll improve those things that we did last night.
Hoping to have Chris, Cody, and Darnell back at 100%.
Hopefully really soon, but, you guys will find that out. And Big Ten has a rule now with the 2-hour rule, and, we'll use that as the Big Ten wants it used.
Yeah, and with the special teams, that kick return led to the score for Nebraska, and then Eastern Michigan 2 return touchdowns. How are you guys preparing for that?
Yeah, I thought we did pretty well, except that one return. And if you watch it, 2 guys are they got handsy and eyesy. They got down inside where they just kind of lost their gap, just like gap integrity on defense. And that's not where the return's supposed to go. He just bounced it because of the lack of contain by 2 young players. And they'll get coached up. We believe in them. But they've got a really good return game. They showed that. Anytime you have 2 returns in a game for a touchdown, that's not by accident. They've done that. They did that last year. I took one to the house against Western Michigan University. I did that another time. They're good at it, and they spend a lot of time on it. They've got a few techniques that they use that are a little different than what we've seen, which can help with what they do. But when you have 2 guys return a kick each, that's very rare. And they kick it away from the guy, and he takes it back. So that just shows their scheme's well dialed in. Their coach or their players are all bought into that, and they execute their scheme really well.
PJ, what did you like most about your defensive performance on Thursday?
Well, I just thought it was collective. From the top down, from the back to the middle to the up front. We played a lot of guys, rotated a lot of guys. With 20 plays or whatever it was in the first half, there wasn't a lot of data in the first half. Second half, I think both teams were throwing the ball a little bit. I think if it was a normal Minnesota game of years past, maybe we would have got 40 total plays. We threw the ball a heck of a lot more than we usually did in the past. But I just loved how we swarmed to the ball. I loved top down. I loved that they never thought they were out of it. They just played really, really hard. And if you play hard, especially on defense, sometimes even if you are wrong, you'll be able to get somebody on the ground or you'll be able to make a play. It's the times you're not doing that you worry that you have to be perfect. So they knew what they were doing. They did a great job with halftime adjustments, sideline adjustments. I don't think there's anybody better in the business at doing that than Joe.
Do you anticipate using the same offensive line configuration heading into week 2?
That's a great question. We'll see. I think we got 7-8 guys that can play. I think we got 4 guys that have solidified themselves as starters. We'll do what we have to do in practice and keep evaluating and see what that guard position looks like and go from there. But I have confidence in all the guys. It's just who's going to do it better. And when it's that close, who edges somebody out to play the most? Those are the questions we have to answer. It's not like, hey, we're not good enough there. That's not what I'm saying. We've got 4 guys. Somebody's got to separate themselves. And whether that's a young guy or whether that's an older guy, we're waiting on that. But it's a good problem when you have 8 guys we have to be more consistent.
I know Eastern Michigan went into the year rated among the best special teams units in the MAC. What else do they do well besides the kickoff returns?
Yeah, well, their punt team's really good. They fly around. You know, they play all their starters on special teams. I can't say all because that's technically not true, but they play their best players on special teams. They're all over the place. You can tell that Coach Creighton, which he always has valued special teams. Even back when I was at Western Michigan, had really solid special teams. And, you know, that's the bridge that connects offense and defense. And he's won a lot of games on special teams, and that's the difference makers. When you look on the offensive side of the ball, they got a quarterback who can really throw it. They run it with them too. They've got a running back who used to be a quarterback at Iowa, and then so he does some more wildcat. He plays running back. He can throw the ball, so he provides that wildcat dangerous aspect to still throw the football. They're really big up front. I mean, the right tackle's huge. They've got a lot of offensive linemen that they play. They've got a lot of skill. They threw the ball down the field. They ran it with some efficiency, and then when you look at them over the years, that's what they do. Defensively, you know, they're multiple in what they do, whether 4 down or 3 down. But you know, they keep everything in front of them. Did a really good job of limiting, you know, the team last week of keeping in front of them. They scored some points, but they eliminated.